The Untouchable True School Sports Empire proudly presents something the boxing game's missing. Hey, what's going on? It's your boy BT, and I came here to talk some boxing with the thousands of True School Sports subscribers. Now, listen, guys, I know it's been a long time. Better late than never. I'm happy to be back. It's the first live I've done in like 24 days. I think the last time I went live was like 2 days after Brian Norman Jr. versus Jitsuzaki, a couple of days before I left Japan. So listen, it's good to be live, man. It's been a while. You know, I've been readjusting to life back in the States because I've been back in America now for like 3 weeks now. So you know, I've had time to get reacclimated. I'm kind of back in the swing of things now. So listen, we got a lot to talk about, guys. It's good to be seen. Shout out to everybody here. Make sure you smash that like button and definitely subscribe if you're new to the channel. If you watch the playback, smash the like button, do all that good stuff. And definitely, go ahead and super chat because those definitely help the channel. But we're here to talk some boxing. This is, in fact, the aftermath of Hamzah Sheeraz and the demolition job he did on Edgar Berlanga. Crazy stuff happening in that fight. Turki wants to do Hamzah versus Canelo now. He tweeted about it today. So we're going to talk about all that. We're going to talk about all that. Shakur Stevenson and all those great things. But before we get into the talking points, let's take some time to acknowledge the fine folks that are already here, already chiming in, already giving, making their presence felt. Shout out to everybody here. Let me see who we got here. Who we got in the building. We got my man Jeffrey the Pig in the building. He says, "Hello, True School. Hello, Jeffrey. Good to see you. Yes. Hope all is well." Finding Peace says, "I view Norman as the first real threat of Devin Haney's career. Do you agree or disagree?" I definitely disagree with that. I think Devin Haney, he fought Lomachenko, who was obviously a threat. So I obviously would disagree with that. But what I will say, and I've said this in other videos, I think that the Brian Norman fight is hands down the most dangerous fight Devin Haney's taken in his career because he's not fighting a smaller guy coming up in weight. He's not fighting a guy who is going to have a big reach advantage with his arms or be super taller than. This is a guy who's young, strong, and heading towards his prime, firing on all cylinders. So, and on top of that, it's his first fight in the welterweight division. So, I would definitely say it's dangerous. But we'll have plenty of time to talk about Norman and Haney. They fight November 22nd. So we'll definitely talk about that. And, I'm gonna have a lot of fun talking about that one. But yeah, those are my thoughts to answer your question. David S said, "What's good, BT? Salute to you. I already bet on Barrios, and man, am I worried." Well, if Pacquiao's legs hold up, you should be worried because really and truthfully, Mario Barrios is a good fighter, probably a little bit better than people give him credit for, but he's still, a little limited. So we'll see. If Manny Pacquiao wins this fight, all of a sudden you're talking about Manny Pacquiao. Because I don't think Manny's just gonna win and retire. I think Manny's gonna continue to fight. So it's not out the realm of possibility that Manny Pacquiao could fight like Brian Norman Jr. or something like that, or Devin Haney, whoever wins that fight. I don't get why Turki was so on Shakur before the fight because he hasn't really ran on his cards. He stopped this guy. He stopped the guy that beat the guy Turki was big on. Yep, and that's a good point. Muniz Gambo, it's a good point. That's a good point. Shakur has done some running. He's done some quote-unquote Tom and Jerry. But the Tom and Jerry has never taken place on the Turki cards. It took place on top-ranked cards. He fought Josh Padley, who beat Turki's favorite fighter, Mark Chamberlain. And then, obviously, he beat up on, whatchamacallit? He beat up on Cepeda this weekend. So, yeah, good point. Fernando Paredes, the Mexican Jeron Ennis, one of the good young fighters in boxing. Shout out to Fernando. He says, "My guy, BT, what's good, Fern? Good to see you." He says, "BT the go." That's right, champ. We here, True School. The home of boxing is back in full effect. Hope all is well. Keep training hard. BT, do you think Crawford was going to upset Bam? I can see it, especially since it looks like Bam and his team are already overlooking him. Yeah, I got a video coming out on that tomorrow. It's like 15 minutes long, so stay tuned for that. But I'll kind of parrot some of the things I said in that video. If you look at Bam Rodriguez's last 5 fights, Bam, the two toughest fights he's had in his last 5 fights were against Israel Gonzalez and Christian Gonzalez. And what both those guys had in common was what both those guys had in common was that they were 5'6". They were taller, lankier guys. You know, Sonny Edwards. Who was the other guy he fought? I'm drawing a blank. Sonny Edwards, and then Gaio, and then the number one contender he fought, whose name I can't remember right now. They were all like 5'4", 5'3". So Kafu's 5'6". He's a taller, super flyweight. So I think that's gonna give Bam some problems. But what Kafu has going for him that Christian Gonzalez and Israel Gonzalez didn't have going for them when they fought Bam is that he's really punching like that. So Bam got to make sure his defense is tight, and he got to make sure that he don't run into something crazy because Kafu has a respectable right hand, and when you're a southpaw fighting an orthodox fighter, the straight right hand is the number one punch you must defend against at all costs. So yes, sir. My man Fern says he got Norman by KO. I'm with you, champ. Devin Haney, respect to him for stepping up to the plate, but nah, he's not gonna beat Brian Norman. They are charging me $200 to cash out on Barrios beating Pacquiao. I wish I hadn't put 1,000 on it. Well, hey man, that's like what? What is that? I don't know if they like. I know they have the capital gains taxes for betting, but I'm pretty sure that's not a capital gains tax. So okay, sucks to be you. Let me see a couple more comments, and then I want to get into Sheeraz and Turkey and all this stuff because there's a lot to discuss. Next Gen Combat TV in the building. He says Bam ain't never seen a slick black American style. That's right. Even though Kafu ain't American, he's just straight African. Like that boy is straight from where's he from? South Africa. Like he from there. So yeah, like I wouldn't say it's quite the same thing. Crypto Bordy says, "How's Pops doing, BT?" He's doing well. He's doing well. He like myself is very disappointed in the Puerto Rican assassin. Shout out to Coach Malachi Williams. The Puerto Rican assassin Edgar Berlanga. He didn't perform. He didn't do what he was supposed to do. So yeah, Kafu doesn't have the power to get Bam's respect. I don't know about that one. He's got some thump. I've seen guys with lesser power than Kafu get Bam's respect. Christian Gonzalez had Bam's respect when he broke his jaw, and Christian Gonzalez had his chin way up in the air and don't even got popped like that. So I'm just saying, man. I think people who are overlooking Kafu are retarded. I think it's the stupidest thing in the world to overlook football like Kafu. I spent like 2 hours today watching Kafu fights. Like he's a live dog in this fight. I think he's like a 6-1 underdog. So yeah. Am I still in Japan? No. What's funny is everyone thinks I'm in Japan. No, I haven't been in Japan for. I think I left Japan on June 25th. So I've been gone from Japan since June 25th. I just haven't been live, and I've been readjusting to life in America. So I feel like I'm readjusted now. So it's time to get back to it. But anyway, guys, shout out to everybody here. If you got your comments, leave them in the chat. I'll get to them eventually. Definitely subscribe, definitely super chat, and let's get into it because there's a lot to discuss. There is quite a lot to discuss. Now, we'll start with just Hamzah Sheeraz, right? Because I feel like really and truthfully, Hamzah Sheeraz, you want to talk about a breakout performance, you want to talk about announcing yourself to the world. This is how you announce yourself to the world. Demolition job with Edgar Berlanga. It's crazy how in boxing, one fight can really change the narrative on a fighter and their career because just one fight ago, Hamzah Sheeraz fought Carlos Adames, looked like regular British fighter, right? Now, I give him credit because even though Edgar Berlanga wasn't taken serious by many people, he's still a hard puncher. He's still a guy that, as he's told us many times, he won 12 rounds with Canelo. He's been on that level, right, with Canelo, right, so to speak. And he's a big time puncher, right? So when you're a fighter moving up in weight, you don't really know. You could be confident about it, but you don't really know until you actually go ahead and you go through the process. It wasn't like, in my opinion, some of you may disagree, it wasn't the safest fight, especially when you consider the fact that he had changed trainers from Ricky Funes to Andy Lee. Now, Andy Lee deserves a lot of credit for this because he had everything worked out. Like Hamzah and Andy Lee had everything worked out, and they were and Hamzah was very well prepared for this fight. So he's on a lot of people's radars now. He announced himself to a lot of people that had never seen him fight before, and he's thrusted himself, and you guys may not like it. You guys may or may not like it, but we'll go to screen share. He's thrusted himself. Where's screen share at? Right here. Yeah, there you go. So Hamza has thrusted himself right into the Canelo Alvarez sweepstakes because Turkey tweeted this today. This is back. This is from today. Or no, a couple days ago actually. He said, and I quote, Hamza deserves Canelo in 2026. So how do we interpret this? How should we interpret this? Because really and truthfully, like I've told you guys for the longest time, I was telling you guys before Hamza even fought Adames. I said, look, someone in my comment section told me that they was ignorant of me to say this because apparently Pakistan and Saudi Arabia don't actually get along. But in this case, Pakistan and Saudi Arabia do get along. Turki Al-Sheikh has always looked after Hamza. He's always talked a little bit more extra glowingly about Hamzah Sheeraz. And I just feel like, he's kind of been, from my vantage point, from my perspective, he's been treated like the golden boy of Saudi Arabia, the golden boy of Riyadh season. And, and this kind of confirms it because it actually confirms what I'm saying, and it confirms even what Edgar Berlanga was telling Hamza when they had their face-to-face interview, that Turkey had a plan for him, and the plan was ultimately to get the Canelo fight. Now we got Turkey thrusting Hamza into the Canelo sweepstakes. Now, a lot of people will say, well, BT, they may say, BT, well, we can't talk about Hamza versus Canelo because he got to be Terrence Crawford, which segues to my next point, which is the fact that, and I said this in my post-fight review video. I said the biggest loser of the Hamzah Sheeraz Edgar Berlanga fight wasn't Edgar Berlanga. The biggest loser of the Hamzah Sheeraz fight was Terrence Crawford. And as you guys can see on the screen, I tweeted about it. I said the following, and I quote, with Hamzah Sheeraz's performance tonight, it's safe to say that if Terrence Crawford has even a semi-close fight with Canelo Alvarez, he's 1,000% getting robbed on the cards. When it comes to Riyadh season, Hamza is Canelo, and the fight they will want, they being Turki Al-Sheikh, they will want is Canelo versus Sheeraz. Now, look, I tweeted this. Let's see. I tweeted this on July 12th, 2025 at 11:54. And let me see, Turkey. What time? I know Turkey tweeted it. So look, I had my tweet. Mind you, I didn't even see Turkey's tweet until like probably today or yesterday. So I tweeted my thing at 11:54. He tweeted his thing at 11:47. So I didn't even see his tweet, and I was already tweeting about the fact that I thought they were gonna line him up. So it just goes to show you, I'm already on one accord. I can already feel what Turkey's gonna do before Turkey even feels what he's gonna do. Like look, 11:47, July 12th, 11:54, July 12th. So ain't that something? I to be honest with you guys, I didn't even realize that till just now. So that's pretty crazy. But yeah, I think Canelo versus Sheeraz is the fight that Turkey wants to make. And I have a video coming out on this later in the week about will Canelo Alvarez fight Sheeraz? So stay tuned for that when it drops. But I truly do believe that Canelo is going. I don't think Terrence Crawford is going to knock out Canelo, and I do think Canelo is going to get a decision over Terrence Crawford for sure. Like for sure, it's not even a doubt in my mind. That being said, when that happens, the next fight is going to be Sheeraz versus Canelo. And I think Canelo will take it for a couple of reasons. Number one, he will take the fight because Hamzah Sheeraz isn't like disrespectful, and he's not going to talk trash to Canelo like Dave Benavidez. We've seen in the past when these fighters like Benavidez and Demetrius Andrade, when they start really putting that pressure on Canelo and talking disrespectful and saying they're going to beat him and this, that, and the third, Canelo don't like that. Canelo's kind of like, he acts like a prima donna. He don't want to fight these guys that talk crazy to him. So, you got to kind of play nice with Canelo, unfortunately, right? So Hamza will play nice. I think Hamza will be mild-mannered and respectable and all the things he was in the build-up to the Berlanga fight. And I think that'll help him get the fight. That's number one. Number two, Turkey has a vested interest in Hamza fighting Canelo Alvarez. So therefore, I think Turkey's going to give Canelo a little bit of extra money to fight Hamzah Sheeraz. And that's what it is. Now, I don't see it as a repeat of him ducking Dave Benavidez. I think we're in a whole different space in boxing now. I think Canelo's in a whole different space in his career now. I look at the Hamzah Sheeraz Canelo fight potentially as the actual last big payday of Canelo's career. I know Canelo hasn't said too much about retiring, but I think the end is near. You know, he looks like he's lost quite a few steps. You know, he's not the Canelo Alvarez that fought Billy Joe Saunders at Cowboy Stadium, who had a who had an extra big neck looking like Zach Thomas from the Miami Dolphins. No, this is a whole different Canelo now. So I think I do think the end is near, and I think that Shiraz fight is gonna want to be in his last big payday, and that's what it is. And I think it'd be a good fight. You know, Hamzah, I think this weekend he announced himself to the world as a legitimate threat at 168, a guy with fast hands, a guy who's not afraid to sit in the middle of the ring and trade. And you know what? I think at this stage of his career, that's what Canelo's looking for. Like style wise, that's probably a fight that would excite Canelo because a lot of the guys he's fought for the most part haven't really came to fight. Like William Skoll didn't come to fight. Jamel Charles didn't come to fight. I'm pretty sure Terrence Crawford is not going to come to fight when they fight. He's going to try to box. So, there's a lot of things working in Hamzah Sheeraz's favor to get that fight, and I just see it. I don't think it's like the craziest thing in the world to think that Hamzah could fight Canelo. What do you guys think? What do you guys say? Let me see. We got my man Daniel Rubin in the building. Shout out to Daniel Rubin. He said, "Let's go, BT." Yes, sir. Good to see you, Daniel Rubin. Yes, sir. Is anyone here betting on Kafu? I don't think anybody's betting on Kafu, but I think he's got a chance. I think he's got a better chance than a lot of guys that Dan's been fighting. That head movement had Hamzah fucked up. That's the crazy thing, right? And we'll get to Edgar here in a second. But the craziest thing about this fight, and this is why I love boxing so much, because you could have your preconceived notions, you could do all the film study in the world, and then when you get two fighters in the ring, different opponents and different matchups can bring out different things in fighters. So like the consensus was that if Edgar got in close with Hamzah, he was going to be able to really and potentially hurt him when he was in close. And everyone thought that Hamzah would have more success from the outside using that tall, lanky, rangy frame. That's not what happened. Edgar in the first 2 rounds actually had a lot of success boxing Hamzah. Then in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th round, Edgar got real careless. And I think Hamzah even said it in the interview. Hamzah said after about the first 2 rounds, he told Andy Lee, he said, "Look, I can walk this guy down. I can get to this guy." And Andy Lee trusted his fighter, and the rest is history. So once Hamzah made the adjustment and once Edgar got careless, that's when everything went crazy. But yeah, I saw some things that if you're Canelo Alvarez or any fighter, you could definitely explode with Hamzah. But Hamzah did his thing though, start making a performance. Edgar was outgunned. He thought Hamzah was soft. Yeah, I enjoy Edgar's delusion. Edgar's delusion is inspiring because really and truthfully, the way he turned the Canelo Alvarez loss to a win was inspiring. It taught me a lot about life, actually. So, yeah, I think it's important in boxing. You gotta have confidence in yourself. I love fighters that talk trash. I live for fighters who talk trash. But you gotta have, and it's okay to talk trash, but you have to have the healthy amount of respect for your opponent and know what his strengths are, acknowledge those, and what his weaknesses are, and acknowledge those as well, and you move accordingly. But Edgar didn't seem to do that. He seemed like he just thought that this guy was soft and he was gonna run through him. So that's what he got. He got what he deserved. Turkey wants a Middle Eastern origin boxing superstar. It's obvious. It's his money. He is no different from any other promoter. He just has more money than them. This is correct. Well, I will agree and echo what my man TSP with the, what is that? Yeah, TCP, I should say. I will echo what he said because yes, it's obvious. We know if you watch enough Riyadh season cards, there's been Saudi Arabian boxers that they've had on the undercard. They're just not good. So they lose or they don't look that good. So they don't really stand out. And he's got them buried deep on the undercards. Hamzah Sheeraz is Turki Al-Ashik's best chance at a Middle Eastern boxing superstar. And guess what, guys? He's gonna do whatever it takes to try and produce that. And credit to Sheeraz, he gave Turkey something to work with this weekend. So it's a great building block, and he's got everybody talking about him now. These promoters can't compete with Turkey's money because as much money as Bob Arum may have, as much money as Eddie Hearn may have, they get their money from networks, right? Turki Al-Ashik's getting his money from a government. You know, once governments are just giving you all this money, especially a government as wealthy as the Saudi Arabian government, you know, you can't compete, unfortunately. So, um, Jeffrey the Pig says, I feel bad for fighters like Billy and others who deserve a Canelo fight, but got to wait for the opportunity, got to wait for Crawford and Shiraz fight before getting an opportunity at a title. Yeah, that's what it is, man. Like, but the thing is, people don't care about mandatories, right? And I feel bad for Billy too, because Billy, like, he brings his lunch pail every single time he fights. I've never seen a boring Christian Billy fight. He is the WBC mandatory, but people only care about mandatories when it's a fighter that they like or a fight they want to see. Nobody cares about Michael Eifert, you know. Nobody cares about, you know, all mandatories. They only care about some mandatories. So, yeah, I think it's bullshit. But all Emily can do is continue to win, look good, and just wait patiently for a shot, either for Canelo to give it to him or for the belt to go vacant. Hello BT. I know I mentioned Rex Tuzo, but he made a surprise move. Okay, shout out to Rex. Yeah, I remember you mentioned him to me. Well, welcome back. Welcome back to Rex. All right, let me see a couple more comments, and I'm gonna get to Edgar because I said what I needed to say about Hamzah. Let me get to Edgar for a second. Let's see, did I say everything? Did I say everything I needed to say about Hamzah? Yeah, I did. Okay. Edgar and Rolly at a catch would be interesting for boxing. Who wins that fight? I mean, nothing would surprise me, but the fans is the winners. We'll get a lot of shit talking. Sheeraz doesn't belong to Frank Warren anymore. No, he doesn't. No, he doesn't. But like none of these guys, anybody who's following those cars don't belong to the promoters. The promoters are just nothing but mere figureheads. They're here to collect their percentage or whatever Turkey's gonna give them, and just be quiet and sit there and watch the fights. You know, if anything, like I know on this channel, I always say like, at least you're getting the fights. At least you're getting the fights. But the promoters more than anybody, like Frank Warren, Eddie Hearn, all these guys, even more than me, they're saying the most. At least you're getting the fights. So yeah, they don't belong to them anymore. They belong to Turkey. Anyway, look, let's turn our attention to Edgar Berlanga, right? Because truth be told, you know, I like Edgar. I know I feel like I'm kind of in the minority in boxing media. I feel like everybody's just taking this time to shit on Edgar, which is fine. Like he talked a whole bunch of shit. So if you talk a bunch of shit and you're dishing it out to the world, you gotta be willing to take it. And you know, Edgar has like disabled comments on all of his posts on Instagram. You know, he hasn't really talked to the media or done an interview, like a proper interview since the loss, which is understandable because you know he had it's a heartbreaking loss, but he talked a lot of trash. So he got a lesson in humility, and like shout out to my boy Marcos Pops, who's also Edgar's friend, fellow professional. He's a fighter as well and a good friend of mine. He said it best: the humble don't stumble. You know, see, like I like when fighters talk shit, but talking shit comes with a price, and the price that comes with talking shit in boxing is that you have to back it up, because if you don't, people will never, ever, ever let you hear the end of it. And that's where we're at. Edgar Berlanga, like, I don't think he's ever going to be a pound for pound fighter. And I'm starting to question if he'll ever be a world champion. I thought he had a chance to be a world champion. I still wanted to see the William Scull fight. I wish him and William Scull would have fought when William Scull had the IBF title. That would have been his best chance. And he still might have even lost that fight. But could he still be like? Could Edgar win a world title? That's really what it is. Because he's not gonna be on the no pound list. I don't think he's gonna be the next Felix Trinidad or anything like that. But can he win a world title? Well, the answer to that question, guys, is yeah, he can. Only if he makes boxing his number one. Because boxing is like a woman, and boxing is a jealous woman, and boxing has to be your number one, especially at that level. I've seen it, guys. I've seen it. Like, you know, with Dean part of Team Angelo Leo. I've seen what it takes for a fighter to win a world title. So I'm not talking about something that I think. I'm talking about something that I've lived myself and seen with my own eyes. Like, but you have to be 150% in with boxing. And I just feel like, and this is my opinion. I'm not there with Edgar every day in the gym. I don't know him on a personal level like that. I met him one time. He was an awesome person to meet, but I don't think boxing truly is number one. I feel like Edgar he may love boxing to a degree, but I feel like he loves more what comes with boxing more than boxing itself, and that's a very dangerous thing because when you love what comes with boxing more than the actual sport itself, then really and truthfully, like when the going gets tough, the tough won't get going with you. So Edgar loves the jewelry and looking the part of a celebrity and being around the celebrities, having the celebrities walk him out in his fights, but he's I think he has to tone down on that. Like just make boxing your number one. Like make boxing your number one. Because if I'll tell you right now, and I'm keeping it 100% real. So like I know people in the boxing world. I know I don't got the biggest channel, but I know a lot of people with influence in boxing do come across these videos. So if like his coaches, like Coach Mark Ferre or anybody from his team, come across these videos, what I'll say is this, man. Like if Edgar don't get himself straight, like I'm talking about right now, he's on his way to becoming a gatekeeper. Like the most, yeah, a gatekeeper. Which it's not a bad thing. A gatekeeper isn't a bad thing. I know plenty of fighters that have made great money being gatekeepers. One of my good personal friends was Adrian Granados, who you guys may remember from back in the day. He made great money being a gatekeeper. He could have been a world champion at 140, but he got more money to fights at 147, and he didn't get no offers at 140 after he beat Amir Imam. So yeah, he suffered a bunch of losses in fights he should have never taken, but he made good money being a gatekeeper. So you can make good money being a gatekeeper, but if I understand Edgar, like I think I understand Edgar, I don't think he wants to be a gatekeeper. I think he wants to be a winner. I think he wants to be a champion. I think he wants those things. So he's got to make boxing his true number one. Stop worrying about being seen. Stop worrying about being a celebrity. Stop worrying about who's going to walk you out to your fight. Fuck all that. Because at the end of the day, when you lose, it's just going to be you, your team, and that's it. None of that stuff matters. And it's crazy. Like to me, Edgar has had one of the most intriguing careers. Like he's got to do everything in reverse because he had the 16 straight first round knockouts, right? Then after that, he had those fights with like Steve Rolls and whatnot, like those 2 or 3 fights with Top Rank where he was going rounds, wasn't getting no knockouts, was looking very regular. And Top Rank did something that I don't think I've ever seen him do. And if they've done it in my lifetime, it's probably only been a handful of times. They cut Edgar Berlanga when he was an undefeated fighter. Normally, when Top Rank cuts you, you got to lose a fight. No. They cut him while he was still undefeated, which at the time when they did that, it made me think to myself, wow, Top Rank really doesn't believe in this kid at all. And they must not think he's the goods at all, So, like the humble don't stumble. Edgar has to make boxing number one. Now, people may say like, cause I've seen people say like, I saw someone today say like, I think it was Arnold Barbosa Jr. had a tweet talking about how, fighters go through a lot and people shouldn't talk trash to fighters when they lose. And for the most part, I would agree with that. Actually, I would agree. But when you talk the amount of shit that Edgar talked this week, and mind you, I like Edgar. I was rooting for him. I wanted him to win, but you don't get a chance to you don't get to stop the criticism that comes with shit talking, right? And Edgar's always talked a lot of shit. Like, look, here this is a tweet from October 12th. This is when Artur Beterbiev and Bivol fought for the first time, and this is what he said about Artur Beterbiev. He said, and I quote, "I would stand toe to toe with Arthur," but he meant Arthur, but he said says Arthur, with Arthur and knock him out. No IQ, no head movement. So like he's talked trash and talked shit about fights that had nothing to do with them, that don't even concern him. And this is just one of the many examples I could give you as to why people are shit talking Edgar Berlanga. Now, the question becomes for Edgar, like, who's he gonna fight next? Like, what's gonna be the next fight in his career? Now, I know a lot of people have mentioned the fact that Edgar might fight Caleb Plant next, which from a business standpoint, it makes a lot of sense. Like Caleb Plant just lost to Resendiz. Edgar just lost again to he just lost to to Sheeraz and Canelo back to back. So they both need a win, right? And they're both going to do a lot of talking. It's going to be a fight that people want to see. So why not do it, right? It makes a lot of sense. But truth be told, I don't think Edgar Berlanga even needs to go near Caleb Plant. I think he needs some real learning fights. Like he needs real learning fights to get some things in order because and when I say things in order, like when I watched the fight against Shiraz, the biggest positive I took from the fight was that Edgar can actually box. Like in the first like 2.5 rounds, he was boxing very well actually. Behind the jab, he was feinting. Then somewhere in the third round, he lost composure. He got real tall and real square in that pocket. And when he did that, it was like Christmas came early for Hamzah Sheeraz. Hamzah Sheeraz just started letting go on him, just getting off on him. So I think, in my opinion, what do I know? I'm just a kid from South Florida, from Dania Beach, who just has a boxing channel and has made 10,000 YouTube videos plus and been covering boxing for almost 10 years now. I don't know shit about boxing compared to Edgar, who's been boxing for 22 years or 20 plus years. I don't know anything, but in my opinion, from my, frivolous vantage point, I feel like Edgar needs to correct getting tall and square in the pocket. And I think Edgar mentally needs to become more of a boxer. I think he needs to become more of a boxer because he has the athleticism to be a boxer. If he is more of a boxer and he ever develops any mental fortitude to box a disciplined 12 rounds, the irony of all that is that Edgar naturally punches so hard, he'll start getting more knockouts without having to try because he'll just be boxing and he's an above average athlete and just good things will happen for him. But to go through that transition and to develop mentally on that level, it takes a lot of self-reflection. It takes maybe you making some changes to your team. I'm not saying to fire your trainers, but whatever you feel may be best for you, make those tough changes. Be honest about what you're good at and what you're not. Like me, when it comes to this YouTube shit or just in life in general, I'm always honest about what I'm good at and what I'm not. So you have to be, if you want to progress in life, you have to always be hard. You have to be incredibly harsh about yourself because if you're not, life will be harsh with you. So that's why I'm at with Edgar. But anyway, let me see. We got my man MEasyBX in the building. Good to see you. Long time viewer of the channel. Good to see you in the chat. He says Edgar could fight a guy like Steve Nelson. You know what? I like that fight. And funny enough, the Steve Nelson fight was a fight that Top Rank wanted to make when Edgar was a prospect. I remember this very clearly. I'm gonna say like somewhere around 2021. When Edgar was a prospect, that was a fight that Top Rank was was exploring. Like he was an option, but it never came together for whatever reason. Steve Nelson said that Edgar ducked him. Listen, Steve Nelson just had a good performance in a loss against Diego Pacheco. Steve Nelson can punch, but Steve Nelson is limited, right? Steve Nelson is limited. Steve Nelson is older, and Steve Nelson has also been talking a lot of shit about Edgar Berlanga on Twitter, saying about how trash he is. So I think that'd be a good fight that would sell, that would do well, that would get people's attention because of the amount of talking that's going to go on. But it's a fight where, with all due respect to Steve Nelson, it is a step down in class from Canelo and Hamzah Sheeraz. So I think it would allow Edgar to fix some things and actually work on the mental fortitude. I think Edgar can actually box. Like he showed it in the first 2.5 rounds. He was feinting, he was jabbing, and actually scoring with the jab. He was doing some good things, and then he got hit one time and lost all composure. So I think, it's up here for Edgar. It really is. I'm not saying he's gonna be no pound for pound fighter, but he can. I think he can win a world title still. But it's gonna take a lot of changes in self-reflection. What do you think Edgar Berlanga needs to fix if he wants to become world champion or something like that? Mental fortitude. And just this big chip he has on his shoulder to be this superstar celebrity. Like, bro, just be a fighter. Just be a fighter. Be a fighter. And if Edgar Berlanga is the best Edgar Berlanga, he'll be. The irony is, if he's the best version of himself in that boxing ring, he'll get everything he wants outside of it, if that makes sense. Like, he's so wrapped up in the outside that it's hindering the inside. But if he focuses on the inside, the outside will give him what he wants, which is clout, fame, notoriety, all that bullshit that he likes. So mental fortitude, definitely, I would say just becoming more of a boxer, because it's going to set up all the things that he wants to do, which is knock people out and be an entertaining fighter. So yeah. Joe Proctor says the only and I'm pretty sure this is Hyro, but the only fights Edgar should be main eventing is Plant City, Florida. You know what? That's actually not a bad idea. That's not a bad idea at all. Why not? He trains there already. It's a comfortable place for him. Do three, 4 fights at the Plant City. I know he's not gonna make the money he's made fighting Shiraz at the tennis stadium or Canelo, but if you really have it in your soul to be a champion, then these are the kind of things you gotta do. So, like, look, man, and the thing is, I can speak to these things because I've seen it and I've lived it with my boy on the wall right there, my boy Angelo Leo. Like, man, saw Angelo lose to Stephen Fulton. Mayweather Promotions didn't even want to they didn't even want to get him fights anymore. Like, so they basically they shelled him and he couldn't even buy himself out of his own contract. But he had to make certain humbling decisions to get back to where he is now, which is with the IBF world title and now the featherweight champion of the world with the 2024 knockout of the year. So if Edgar wants to have a similar story to that, he's gonna have to really press into making some tough decisions. Edgar versus Derevyanchenko would be a good fight to build up some experience in rounds against in-league guy. I think so. I think that'd be a good fight. Derevyanchenko is respected. I don't know if you want to call him a gatekeeper, but that's kind of what he is. He's been shafted a lot in his career, but yeah, he's a gatekeeper. Do that fight. If Edgar, listen, with all respect to the true warrior Sergey Derevyanchenko, love him, been great for boxing, but he's at a more advanced stage of his career now. If Edgar can't beat Sergey Derevyanchenko, then I'm sorry. Like, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. You're not going to get too much further if you can't beat Sergey Derevyanchenko. El Pinchy says, BT, what about Morrell getting a gift? I only gave him 2 rounds. I didn't score the fight round by round, so I can't tell how many rounds I gave Morrell, but I thought Morrell won more than 2 rounds. But I don't think Morrell won the fight. He won more than 2 rounds, but he didn't win the fight. I thought Imam Katayev won the fight, but I'm not like, I said this in my video about this, I'm not crying over spilt milk. Like, it's not the biggest tragedy in the world to me that Imam Katayev lost, because it's debatable whether or not Imam Katayev should have even been fighting. The dude literally tested positive for steroids in the IBA in Russia. I know the positive tests was from April of 2024, but it didn't come out in April of 2024. It came out in July of 2025. So if you tested positive in Russia, right, and then you test negative in the States, should we really be trusting VADA? I don't know. That whole situation with the IBA and whatnot, it just didn't allow me to feel bad for him getting robbed. As messed up as it sounds, I don't feel bad for him getting robbed because of that. I do think he won. I do think the wrong guy got his hand raised, but I don't feel bad for Imam Katayev, if that makes sense. Now, I think they should do a rematch. I think it was a great fight. I think it was a fight that, honestly, it might be the best fight Turkey ever put on. Like, on all the Riyadh season cards, I think it might be the best fight, straight up. Because, Morrell did have a strong close to the fight. He almost got Imam Katayev out of there. He had him hurt, so. Edgar could fight Munguia in a firefight, and it was so. I think so. I think that's a very lucrative fight. I mean, as Edgar stated, Munguia lost to a guy who only had 4 knockouts. So, and he's got, listen, his career right now is a PR nightmare. Jaime Munguia has tested positive for steroids and all this stuff, and he needs to be in an exciting fight. I think he needs something that's going to get his name good in the good graces of the boxing public again. So I think that, I think Edgar versus Munguia would be good. They're both limited. They're both limited fighters. They're both the Mexico versus Puerto Rico. It's going to sell. I agree. Gabe Rosado, I mean, that's another one. I know there was talks of them fighting at one point. Let me see. Howard Miller, shout out to him. He says Edgar should get in the gym, learn the craft, and build his shit back up slowly. That you said it. You said it perfectly, Howard. Learn the craft, be obsessed with the craft, and just do everything you can to be the best Edgar. Because he's got, I'm not gonna sit here and say he's this like pound for pound A-level fighter, but he's got some things to work with. I know it's very easy for everybody to say like he's trash, he's garbage, and people are gonna have their fun. But I saw some building blocks in the first 2.5 rounds. Um, you know, I saw positives. People forget that Morrell got a gift on the Majimov Crawford undercard. That was a close fight. A lot of people thought he lost that fight. You're talking about his fight against Hot Rod, Radivoje Kalazic, who that was Morrell's first fight as light heavyweight. And it's crazy seeing what's happened with Morrell and Benavidez, because Morrell and Benavidez, these guys were the toast of the town at 168. These guys were the creme de la creme, top shelf guys at 168. And now these guys, between both of them, Morales had 3 fights at 175. Benavidez has had, 2 fights, about to have his 3rd fight at 175 against Anthony Yard. Neither one of them has got a knockout. So it goes to show you guys, when you move up in weight, things change. Fighters got to adapt their style. It's very rare that a fighter can fight the same way in multiple weight classes, So, yeah, there's that. Do I think that Beck Bully could beat Edgar? Ooh, that's a good fight. Beck Bully versus Edgar. See, that's a fight where I feel like, I wouldn't take it now. Like, if I'm just putting on my manager's hat for a second, my advisor's hat, if I could like be in charge of Edgar's roadmap for his career, I wouldn't have Edgar fight Beck Bully anytime in the next 12 months. I think Edgar would need about 3 fights before he's ready for a Beck Bully. And the reason I'm saying 3 fights is because he needs to lean into his boxing skills a lot more. And I need to see that over a 2 or 3 fight period, build that up. And then a fight against Beck Bully is where you test the mental fortitude. Can Edgar box a disciplined 12 rounds? EasyBX says, the Asian kid that opened the card, I need to see more. You're talking about Reito Tsutsumi. Good fighter. I like Reito Tsutsumi. You guys know that True School Sports is the #1 source of Japanese boxing in America. So, I'm very familiar with Reito. I actually met Reito Tsutsumi in Tokyo on New Year's Eve at the New Year's Eve card they had there. Good fighter. I'm high on him. Like I think he's very good. But I'm not as high on him as a lot of people in Japanese boxing are, or that follow Japanese boxing. He's very good. I still question if he's the best of even his brothers, because everyone's talking about Reito Tsutsumi, how great he is, and I still got to see more of him myself. So I would agree with you, MZBX, but I actually think that his older brother Hayato Tsutsumi is the better of the 2 brothers. He's not as technical as Reito, but he's still very technical. But I just think he's a more well-rounded fighter than Reito Tsutsumi. So I don't know if that's an unpopular opinion or not, but that's my opinion. I think Hayato Tsutsumi is the better fighter of the 2. Plant, Munguia, Andrade, Alexander. It's work out there for him. Yeah, there's plenty of like fights or sparring. About fights? For Edgar, yeah, there's definitely fights out there for him. I don't think he should be fighting none of them guys anytime soon. He need to step it down a lot, like for 2 or 3 fights, and really build his shit up, like you said. Let me see what else. What are the talking points that I have? Because let me see. Oh, well, do we want to talk about Shakur Stevenson? We can talk some Shakur Stevenson. Y'all want to talk about Shakur? We'll do some Shakur. Now, look. First and foremost, I don't agree with Shakur Stevenson's take on Sugar Ray Robinson. I think he's like ridiculous. I think it's one of the stupidest things I've heard on boxing in quite some time. I understand the arguments. I understand because I see him in other sports. I see it in basketball. I see it in hockey. I'll use hockey as an example because I'm a big hockey fan. People say in hockey that Connor McDavid is the best player of all time, even though he's trash and can never win the Stanley Cup final because he keeps getting his ass kicked by the Florida Panthers every single year. But they'll say that he's the best because he's the most evolved hockey player of all time, which I can see. They make the same argument in basketball. LeBron James is the best basketball player of all time because he's the most evolved basketball player of all time, right? And a lot of times when people make these arguments, they say like they do it at the expense of the older generation. So like basketball fans will shit on Will Chamberlain, they'll shit on Elgin Baylor, they'll shit on Jerry West. Hockey fans will shit on, I don't know, Mario Lemieux, Wayne Gretzky, I don't know, whoever, to prop up whoever they want to prop up. There's no way in hell Shakur Stevenson is going to tell me that Sugar Robinson was ass. First of all, his big brother is Terrence Crawford. I promise you, if Sugar Ray Robinson and Terrence Crawford fought at the same time, if you could take Sugar Ray Robinson and evolve him to this era, he would send Terrence Crawford to the emergency room. He would send your big bro to the fucking emergency room, Shakur. So have some respect. You know, they used smaller gloves back then. Shakur is talking about his hand problems, all these hand problems he has with big gloves, with state-of-the-art boxing gloves. Could you imagine how much hand problems Shakur Stevenson would have had if he used the Sugar Ray Robinson gloves? You're talking about Sugar Ray Robinson, who has wins over like 7 Hall of Famers, 8 Hall of Famers, legitimate welterweight champion, the legitimate middleweight champion. You know, Sugar Ray Robinson, a guy that, you know, didn't have the luxury of winning his first world title against Joet Gonzalez. So don't. Shakur Stevenson's tripping. All right, I gotta do a long video on that because I couldn't believe that somebody who's as smart on the ring as Shakur Stevenson really said that Sugar Ray Robinson was ass at boxing. That makes no sense. But I digress. Sugar Robinson, or it's not Sugar Ray. Shakur Stevenson this week did a great job of reminding the world that he is who he says he is. He's a hell of a fighter, you know, like Mayweather would say. I love what I saw in this Zepeda fight. Even when he was on the ropes, I know a lot of people made a big deal about him being on the ropes. We'll go to screen share because Mike Tyson actually said something about Shakur, but a lot of people made a big deal about Shakur Stevenson on the ropes and the fact that, you know, they didn't like him on the ropes. They didn't like him being pushed back to the ropes. I thought he handled everything just fine. You know, one thing Shakur Stevenson has always been great at, and I've known this since before the Olympics. I've known this throughout the duration of his amateur career. I've known this throughout the duration of his professional career, and talking to fighters that have sparred him. And it hasn't just been one fighter or 2 or 3. It's been like 4, 5, 6, 7 different fighters I've talked to on and off camera about Shakur Stevenson. They all tell you the same thing. They say Shakur Stevenson has mastered the game of inches. He's mastered the art of distance control. He always knows his punching distance, and it was very evident in this fight because Zepeda was falling short. When Shakur be on the ropes, I mean, sure, Zepeda did land some shots and did kind of knock Shakur off balance on a couple of occasions. But for the most part, Shakur Stevenson knew where he was at. He knew his range, and the majority of those punches were missing by, you know, centimeters. So just a great exhibition of what he's always been great at, but then also for him to hold his feet a little more and let his hands go and show the world that he can win a fight in the pocket against an elite volume puncher like William Zepeda. This is the kind of performance that I think is a great building block for Shakur Stevenson's career. And I'm happy for him. I really am. Because I don't like coming on here and talking bad about Shakur Stevenson when he has these, like, you know, boring performances or underwhelming performances, because I know how good he is, you know, and I've been following him for a long time, and I do like him. But Mike Tyson had to say this about Shakur Stevenson. He stated the following, and I quote, "In my opinion, Shakur Stevenson looked the best he ever looked in his last fight. Those masterful combinations and head movements. He's still young in doing that. He looks superb. And everybody wants him to show people he can take a punch, but the art is to hit and not get hit. That's boxing, and that was the best fighter he ever fought. The fight was tough, and he beat him with no problem. In the middle of the ring, he was beautiful. I just don't like when he gets on the ropes for too long, and vice versa. I think, you know, against you know, a more dangerous fighter, you know, because Zepeda is an accumulation puncher. So I think if Shakur was ever going to fight a fight in the pocket, this was the guy to do it against, because even though his knockout ratio is big, he's not a big, like, one punch guy. I feel like if Shakur Stevenson ever loses a fight, it's going to be to somebody who has one punch knockout potential. You know, where he makes a lapse and maybe gets counted or something like that, or goes to the ropes and maybe gets hit with a shot he doesn't see. Something like that. That's what's going to really, I think, trouble Shakur Stevenson. but Cepeda's not that kind of fighter, so he could do what he did against Cepeda in this particular fight. We'll see what happens. I'm really intrigued to see what happens in Shakur's career next, because the next domino that he has to wait for it to fall is the whole Gervonta Davis Lamont Roach thing, their rematch, which Lamont Roach has assured the public that it's going to happen. Tank did go to jail for beating up on his ex-girlfriend again, and it's not a good look. And the funny thing is, guys, and I'll say this here. So if you're watching this live, you can just pay attention. I'm not gonna say who it is. I'm not gonna name the fighter, but he's subscribed to this channel, so he'll know who I'm talking about if he watches this. But I know a fighter that I'm gonna say about 3 weeks to a month ago was sparring Tank Davis in South Florida, and he's a great friend of mine. And this fighter told me that when he was sparring Tank in the ring, that Gervonta Davis was looking outside the ring. He wasn't very engaged. He just really had, and this wasn't one time, it was a couple times. He wasn't throwing a lot of punches. He wasn't engaged. He just looked like he didn't want to be there. So I already had my concerns for Tank. Then this came out. So I'm putting 2 and 2 together, man. It looked like Lamont Roach might fuck around and really beat Tank. So the fight might actually become Shakur Stevenson versus Lamont Roach. And if it is, I think it'll be an intriguing fight. I don't think Shakur Stevenson will fight in the pocket in that particular fight, because Lamont Roach has shown throughout the duration of his career, and he really showed it more than ever against Gervonta Davis, that he's got outstanding skills inside that pocket. So I think Shakur is going to kind of wait and see what happens with that domino to fall. The other fight out there for him, obviously, is Floyd Schofield, which I think, and I know he had I know Shakur had a great performance against Zepeda. I still think the Floyd Schofield fight could be really tough for him, and I would like to see it. So he's got options. He's got options if Abdullah Mason beats Sam Noakes, becomes world champion. They could fight each other. If Sam Noakes actually upsets Abdullah Mason, I'm sure Shakur will probably fight him, because they already have familiarity. Shakur Stevenson and Sam Noakes have sparred each other, and they both spoke very highly of each other. So there's options out there. I think, Roach, Tank, Mason, Noakes, one of those 4, Schofield, any one of those 5, I think those will all be fun fights for Shakur Stevenson. And he's in a good position. So, yeah. What do you guys think? What say you guys? Any updates on Jin Sasaki? The last update on Jin Sasaki is that he's doing well, and they're putting together a plan to go ahead and get him physically strong. And I'll leave it at that. I mean, there's other things I could say, but I'll just leave it at that for now. Later on, I'll talk more. The Shakur rhetoric is insane right now. What's the rhetoric? Where are the Japanese female boxers? I don't see many. They're in the super lower weight categories. The most, like, the Japanese female boxer that you'll probably hear about if you haven't already is Mizuki Hiruta. She's got pink hair. She's kind of cute. She's fought on a couple cards here in the States on Tom Loeffler's shows. So she's a champion. Maybe she'll be the next breakout Japanese women's fighter. But a lot of the Japanese women's fighters over there in Japan. They're not on American television. What should the game plan be for Kafu to get the upset? It's a good question. That's a hell of a question. Well, I think you got to box Bam. I think you got to use your height to your advantage and get Bam to overcommit and counter. Kind of like Kosai Tanaka did. Like, if you go back and you watch the Kosai Tanaka fight, Tanaka was coming in, Kafu stepped back and caught him with a right hand, and that's how he dropped him. I feel like Kafu has to play the role of the counterpuncher. If he goes in the pocket with Bam, I think Bam will chop him up. I think Bam's body punching, his angles, his footwork is going to favor him dominating in the pocket. I think Kafu has to be very patient in this fight and allow Bam to overcommit. And I think Bam will, because Bam has showed in other fights. If you're really watching, you're not just buying in the hype of Bam Rodriguez, which there should be hype on Bam. Bam's a great fighter, but I'm saying every fighter has flaws, and I think Crawford will have his chances to land some nice, meaningful counter punches on Bam Rodriguez, and I'll leave it at that. Let me see. I'm getting excited about a Roach versus Shakur as opposed to a Roach Tank fight or a Shakur Tank fight. Yeah, like Lamar Roach right now, he's in a power position. If he goes in here and he beats Tank, if he really like puts the exclamation point and like really definitively, I mean, I thought he definitively beat him the first time. I'll be honest with you. I didn't think it was a close fight. I thought he beat him pretty clearly, but it's boxing. It's big time boxing. It's the business. They weren't gonna let Tank Davis lose on that night, So will they let if LaRoche replicates that performance again? Will they let Roach win the fight? I don't know, but I think Roach should go in there and try to stop him so we could just like not have any questions. And if he does, then Shakur Stevenson versus Roach becomes the number one versus number two. Let me see. Bam is fighting Martinez next. No, he's not fighting Martinez. So this is what I'm saying. Like this is why I want Crawford to win, because Turkey went ahead and made the Bam Rodriguez versus Puma Martinez fight. Bam is fighting this weekend against Fumalele Kafu, the WBO champion, in a unification fight. If he wins this fight, then he's fighting Puma Martinez. And I'll tell you guys this. One thing I absolutely detest and hate about boxing at the top level is I hate when a fighter has a legitimately good fight in front of them and they go ahead and start making fights for they go ahead and make fights that for like the fighter's next fight. I hate when they already have deals in place. I always root for plans to get fucked up when I see that. So this will be no different. I'll like to see Crawford ruin Turkey and Bam's plans because I don't like that. You're cooking with no grease. Roach won that fight easy. Yeah, man. He dominated Tank in the pocket. Tank, especially early on, Tank them first like 4 to 5 rounds. All he did was circle the ring. It was Roach landing the more meaningful shots, winning the exchanges in the pocket. He was the more defensively responsible guy. Even when they would be in exchanges, a lot of times when Tank would load up and throw these hard explosive shots, man, Roach would catch these shots. He rolled these shots, sometimes with the shoulder, sometimes with the chin. It didn't matter. He was just the better fighter all the way around that night, and I just think he got screwed. Bro, really don't like Turkey. Yeah, I mean, I'm toning it down, but if you've been on this channel, you know the drill. I'm with you. The test is the word. Everyone is already hyping up Canelo versus Sheeraz. Yeah, I mean, look, it's funny because I've been saying this for the longest time. I've been saying since even before he fought Adames. I said, look, guys, this is Turkey's golden boy. This is the guy that he wants to push over the limit, over the edge, and really and truthfully, man, like. Look where we're at. Like, look where we're at. Shiraz had one sensational performance on a Riyadh season card, and Turkey's trying to push him towards the Canelo fight. So, I wasn't wrong. I wasn't out of pocket. Sometimes I say things and people think I'm hating it. I'm actually just really telling you guys the cold, hard, honest truth. Yes, exactly. That is corruption. Turkey was standing right behind Matias as judges were announcing the scores, and he was listening. Dude, get the fuck out. I see why people don't like Turkey now. I mean, there's a lot of people. There's a lot of people that had their things about Turkey. I've shed a whole light on that before. I don't need to go. I don't need to. I don't want to continue talking about like why I don't like Turkey. There's a million gajillion videos about that. But yeah, I can't really say too much bad right now because the card this weekend, like I'll give him his due. It was a very good card, top to bottom. If all those fights on the November 22nd card wind up happening, oh my God, then you gotta give it to him. That's a hell of a card. So we'll see how it goes. Let me see. Oh shit, guys, make sure you show your appreciation for good friend of mine, one of my great friends in this world, one of the best fighters in the world, the best featherweight in the world, the IBF champion is in the chat, Angelo Leo. He says Hamzah Sheeraz looked like a young De La Hoya in there. And guys, just so you know, Hamzah Sheeraz is, or not Hamzah Sheeraz, Oscar De La Hoya, I should say, is one of Angelo Leo's favorite fighters. In fact, his last fight when he had that he had against Kameda, the trunks that he was wearing, the robe, that was all influenced by Oscar De La Hoya. So yeah, if he's saying that, that's high praise from Angelo. So yeah, good to see him. Good to see you in the chat, Angelo. Let me see. Well, the PBC is giving us the shitty fights. I don't know about that one. I don't agree with that one because Pacquiao and Barrios, I don't really care about Pacquiao Barrios. I think Pacquiao Barrios is a whatever fight. It's cool that Pacquiao's fighting again. I really like, God forgive me, I really don't care about Mario Barrios like that. And to be honest with you, contrary to popular belief, I don't think a lot of people care about Mario Barrios. Like I've never heard anybody in my life ever say, "Hey man, Mario Barrios is fighting this week, man. Let me throw something on the grill." Like I never heard nobody say that before. So that being said, I don't really care for the main event of that card, but the card as a whole is very good. In fact, hold on, we're gonna go to screen share so I can show you guys. Like I can show you guys better than I can tell you. Look. So you're saying it's bad, right? You're saying the card is terrible, right? I disagree with you. Tim Tszyu versus Fundora rematch is a good fight. There's a lot of Tim Tszyu has a lot to prove. That was a very fan-friendly, entertaining fight the first time. I don't see how you can say that's a bad fight. Isaac Cruz versus Angel Fierro was also another very good fight. They're having a rematch. I can't say how you see that's a bad fight. You got Brandon Figueroa coming off of a loss, right? Taking on Joet Gonzalez coming off of a career best win against Arnold K. Guy. I don't see how you can say that's a bad fight. Figueroa's going to come forward, throw a gajillion punches. Joet Gonzalez is going to be in his chest. It's going to be two Mexican Chicanos, letting the leather fly. I can't see how you say that's a bad fight. Even if you go to the prelims, all right, this fight right here, highlight this one right here. This is a good fight right here. Abel Ramos versus Jose Luis Sanchez. Shout out to Guero. New Mexico, stand up. Abel Ramos, you guys know that he got a draw against who was it? Mario Barrios. A lot of people thought he beat Mario Barrios, right? Jose Luis Sanchez, very tough gatekeeper. He's lost a couple of fights, but he's also upset some guys in the past as well. So like, I don't see how you could say this is a bad card. And the crazy thing is, I got through all that without even mentioning the fact that David Picasso, guy who's been talked about fighting Inoue, is fighting Tomoki Kameda's cousin, Kiyonosuke Kameda. So that's a good fight. Kiyonosuke Kameda is an all action fighter. Like this card is just littered with all action fights. So I don't see how you could say this is a bad card. You can say that you're not excited for it, but to say that it's a bad card is just objectively not the truth. So I'll go ahead and leave it at that. But let me see. I skipped over a couple of talking points because I wanted to sign off on this right here because hold on, let me get off screen share. Let me get off this. So look, I don't know if y'all saw this today, but they had Shakur Stevenson and they had Connor Benn in studio today with Ariel Helwani. And listen, I'm not gonna break it down because it doesn't require a breakdown. I'm just gonna dead this in the water right here on True School Sports and tell y'all the truth. This is the most pointless, hypothetical matchup I've heard in recent memory. This fight makes 0 sense whatsoever for a couple of reasons. Number one, Shakur Stevenson is too small for the welterweight division. That's number one. Number two, Shakur Stevenson has, I just told you guys, all them great fights he could potentially have at lightweight. I said Abdullah Mason, Sam Noakes, Floyd Schofield, Lamont Roach, Gervonta Davis. Pick one of the five and you're good. Okay, so he's got too many good options as a lightweight. Even at 40, like if you want to go to 140 and fight Subriel Matias or Hitchens or one of them kind of guys, there's good fights there. Teofimo Lopez. So too many options at 35, too many options at 40. He's too small for welterweight. And number four, Connor Benn doesn't deserve a Shakur Stevenson fight. What has Connor Benn done to deserve a fight against Shakur Stevenson, one of the top fighters in boxing today? Absolutely nothing. Conor Ben has never fought for a world title. He's never won a world title. He's fighting in a cash grab rematch against Eubank Jr., which I can't knock him, get your paper, but I'm just saying, like, man, it makes no sense. It don't make no sense at all. So I'm deading it right here in the water. We don't want to see that shit. Whoever his great idea it was to get Shakur Stevenson on the Ariel Helwani show with Conor Ben today and have them talk shit to each other and try to drum up this fake beef and interest for a fight. It didn't work. It's a terrible fight. It makes no sense. And I'll leave it at that. You guys let me know what you think in the comments. But I couldn't believe that. Like, because my immediate thought was like, yo, they're really trying to build this up. Like, whose idea was this? Whose terrible idea was this to build up Shakur Stevenson versus Conor Ben? Nobody's trying to see that shit. Conor Ben versus Jin Sasaki. Who do you got? Oh my God, that's a good fight. See, now that's a fight that they should be talking about. That's a fight. Now, listen, to the fine folks out there, I love that fight because they're both flawed. They're both flawed. Listen, man, I'm team Jim Sasaki. I got Jin over Conor Ben. Like, sure, Jin got knocked the fuck out by Brian Norman Jr. He got knocked out by Andy Hiroko. That's fine. Conor Ben ain't no Andy Hiroko and he ain't no Brian Norman Jr. And he will find that out very quickly. That he is not those guys that he fights Jin. Why not make that fight? Because I'll tell you this, Jin throws a lot of wild stuff. If Conor Ben gets touched by any of that wild shit from Jin, it's curtains for him. That's the fight we should be getting. Jin Sasaki versus Conor Ben. Conor Ben versus Jin. UK versus Japan. See, now that fight makes sense. You want to see what? I want to see it. Ben would whoop his ass. I don't know about that one. Conor Ben is pretty bad. He's gotten better. He's gotten better, but he's still kind of bad. Like, can I talk about Bam only having 2 fights at 115? I mean, I've talked about this on Twitter today. I don't. And I know, Hyro, I know it's you, champ. I know it's you. And if it's not you, Hyro, then I apologize. But I'm pretty sure it's you, Hyro. But like, Bam Rodriguez is the most well-managed fighter in boxing today. Honestly, he really is. Like, I gotta give it to him. I gotta listen. I gotta give him a standing ovation. I don't want to clap too loud, but every time Junto Nakatani moves up, he leaves the key under the mat. The key being the world title under the mat for Bam Rodriguez to come pick up a vacant title, and they're doing it again. They're absolutely doing it again. Junto is gonna move to 122. Bam is going to move to 118 because Robert Garcia said that Bam is going to move to 118 if he beats Kafu and Puma. Because after them 2 fights, he's done at 115. He don't want no. He's not going to fight. He's not going to do a fight with Ken Shiro, which I really think that Bam should be trying to fight Ken. After these fights, Ken Shiro versus Bam is the most significant legacy fight out there for Bam because Ken Shiro is actually on the pound for pound list. Bam has never fought anybody on the pound for pound list. And Ken Shiro is quite possibly a future Hall of Famer. So that's a fight I want to see. I wanted a whole Twitter rant about that today. But I don't like it, man. I hate how they do this. I hate how and I want to make it very clear because I've talked about this in separate videos. Bam isn't ducking Junto. And I'm gonna tell you guys why he's not ducking Junto. Because they're both controlled by the same person, which is Mr. Honda. So Mr. Honda is pulling the strings and moving these guys as he sees fit. Now, Ken Shiro is a Japanese fighter too, and Mr. Honda does have some control over Ken Shiro because Mr. Honda has control of everything at the top level, damn near in Japanese boxing. But Ken Shiro is not an outright Mr. Honda fighter. Ken Shiro also isn't a, how do I say this? He's not a financial priority to Japanese boxing, even though he's a great fighter, even though I would say, in my opinion, he's the second best fighter from Japan in boxing behind Inoue right now. He's not a financial priority. Junto is a financial priority. Inoue is a financial priority. So I feel like they'd be more willing to. I feel like Kenshiro and Bam is more makeable because of that reason. Kenshiro got. I don't think Kenshiro has a lot of time left, but like as Next Gen Combat says, he still has something left in the tank. So it pisses me off because I can predict Bam's next like 4 steps before they happen. This was gonna happen with Bam's career, guys. It's gonna go down just like this. And this is assuming that he doesn't lose to Kofu or Puma, which he could. He could lose to Puma or Kofu, and that changes everything. But assuming that he wins those fights, he's gonna fight Kofu, Puma. He's gonna go to 118. He will either fight for the vacant title, one of Junto's vacant belts, or he's going to fight Antonio Vargas if Antonio Vargas beats Daigo Higa, because Antonio Vargas is a matchroom fighter. Antonio Vargas would be very easy to make a fight with Bam. So, yeah, it's going to go Kofu, Puma, and then I would say probably Antonio Vargas if Vargas wins. And if Vargas doesn't beat Daigo Higa, then he'll fight for one of Junto's vacant belts. So it's all dependent upon what happens between Antonio Vargas and Daigo Higa. If Antonio Vargas wins, he fights Antonio Vargas. If Antonio Vargas loses, he fights for one of the vacant titles that Junto will leave behind. That's it. But I really do think, and I would really implore Mr. Honda and the powers that be in Japan that to just reconsider doing Bam Rodriguez versus Kenshiro. Kenshiro is on the pound for pound list. He's still got something left in the tank. He's still one of the best fighters out there. He's a great fighter. He's not a good fighter. He's not a, solid fighter. He's a great fighter. One of the best fighters of our era. And Bam, with the way he's been winning and looking all these years, he's trending upwards towards being that of one of the best fighters of our era. So why not have 2 of the best fighters of our era fight each other? 2 pound fighters fight each other. There's no winners and losers in that fight. When 2 guys of that caliber step up to the plate, there's no such thing as winners and losers, because the fights are happening. People are going to be excited to see it, especially in Japan, if it were to happen. But the thing is, like, look, Bam Rodriguez, and this just boggles my mind, and I don't think it's a coincidence, but Bam Rodriguez has never fought a Japanese fighter. And the thing is, he's in weight classes that are dominated by Japanese fighters. It's almost impossible to be in these weight classes and not fight a Japanese fighter. And I don't think it's a coincidence. His promoter is Japanese. So how do you have the biggest influential promoter in Japan promoting you, and you fight in weight classes which have premier, top-tier, upper echelon Japanese fighters, but then you don't fight no Japanese fighters? It doesn't make sense. The math doesn't matter. So... and I'm not hating. I'm just telling you all the facts. Like it's an observation. Do you think the British are screwing with El Chihuahua's drug test? Nothing would surprise me in boxing, but it's hard for me to really feel bad for Chihuahua Rodriguez, even though I like him. He's a good fighter and I respect him. But like anybody who associates with the Eddie Reynoso camp, you put yourself in that position. If you're associating with Eddie Reynoso in any way, shape, or form, you are putting yourself in that position. And it's funny because, and I got to do a video about this tomorrow, but I saw a report that came out about an hour ago where Eddie Reynoso supposedly is saying that now, all of a sudden, because after the 7th fighter tested positive for steroids, now he's going to start supervising these guys, nutritionists and all these kind of things. I'm like, bro, you should have been doing that after the first guy, or at least the second guy tested positive for steroids. No, you had to have 7 guys test positive for steroids to be proactive and take some action while your name and reputation is being tarnished. So I don't feel bad for Chihuahua Rodriguez because he's associated himself with Eddie Reynoso, who doesn't have a great reputation for being a clean. His fighters are not clean fighters. It's just the truth. So yeah, I think Bam is moving up too quick, and it can get dangerous if he keeps moving this quickly. You think he's moving up too quick? I think he's moving up too quick because I want to see him fight Kenshiro. But listen, man, they're gonna move him very carefully. He's fought some good names, but like, there's a lot of guys. I mean, like quiet as kept, man. And people may not want to hear this because they say, well, BT, how can you say Bam avoided fights? He fought he fought against Gaio, and he fought against Wang Vasai, and he fought against Quadras, which is true, and those are good fighters. Even though I will say, Gaio was super shot to pieces when he fought Bam, and I don't know if Angelo Leo's in this chat, but Angelo, if you're here, you can confirm this because I was with Angelo Leo. We went to the sports book to watch the fight. We were sitting right next to each other. I told Angelo in the first like 2 or 3 rounds that Gaio's legs looked terrible and he looked shot, so he can confirm that. I don't like giving Bam credit for Guile because I feel like Guile was extremely shot to pieces. But I give him credit for Quadras, and I'll definitely give him credit for Rungbasai because I didn't think he was gonna stop him like that. But Guile was shot. But quiet as kept, guys. Quiet as kept. There's some young fighters that Bam didn't like try to go see, and maybe some of these fighters were because one of them I'm gonna name was a Mr. Honda fighter. He didn't fight Anthony Olascuaga. He didn't fight Ricardo Sandoval. Um, he didn't fight Ken Shiro. He didn't fight Tanaka. Now, to be fair, he is fighting the guy that beat Tanaka in Kafu, but I'm saying there were a lot of fighters that he could have fought that were maybe not the big that weren't as big as the names he fought, but were still very credible and very dangerous. And like he never got any criticism for not fighting certain guys. But that's just my observation. If Bam gets 3 of the belts, why not get the 4th one belt to try to have undisputed on his resume? I agree. I 1000% agree. I think Bam should try to really solidify himself as the undisputed champion. Now, I will say, guys, I can't blame fighters for not wanting to go undisputed because I don't think boxing fans take this into consideration. When a fighter goes undisputed, so all those titles we see that look so shiny and nice, all these titles, every sanctioning body takes 4% from your purse. So I want you guys to do the math. If you go undisputed, if you're fighting for an undisputed fight, the IBF, the WBA, the WBC, and the WBO are all going to take 4%. So that's 16% of your purse off top to go undisputed. Then you got what? You're going to pay a trainer like 10%, right? You're going to pay your manager about what? 10%. So you're talking about right there. That's 36% of your purse gone already before you even get to taxes. Then you got to pay taxes, right? You got to pay your cut man, right? If you got a nutritionist, you got to pay a nutritionist, right? So if you go undisputed if you go undisputed, you're looking at probably maybe taking after all your fees and the deductibles and things like that as a fighter, you might be going home with like what? If you're lucky, 45% of your purse, maybe 50 if you're like really lucky, but for sure, 45 to 50% of your purse is coming off top. Like you're not gonna get a lot of that money. So I can't really fault fighters these days for going undisputed because like when you really start to break down the numbers of how expensive it is, the fighters ain't making much even for going undisputed. So it's kind of crazy. But yeah, I think right now if you look at it, Bam has the WBC. If he beats Koff, he'll have the WBO, right? If he beats Puma, he'll have the WBA, which would leave the IBF belt, which is currently occupied by Wilbaldo Garcia, the Mexican fighter who just won in his rematch against Rene Calixto. Yeah, man. Wilbaldo, I'm not gonna lie to you. I haven't watched Wilbaldo Garcia really fight like that. I'm not even sure who his promoter is. Who the hell is his promoter? Let me see who's his promoter. Pretty sure his promoter is like Manny Pacquiao Promotions or maybe Viva Promotions. Manny Pacquiao Promotions is his promoter. So there you go. Sean Gibbons and them. Let me see. Sean Gibbons and Mr. Honda. Yeah, they work together. So yeah, you're right. There's no reason Bam shouldn't try to be going undisputed. No way. Being undisputed is supposed to lead to endorsements to make up the money. Yeah, but that's what it's supposed to. I agree with you. That's what it's supposed to do, but that's not the case every fighter. Like not every fighter. Even there's fighters that just, in respect to the fighters, but like there's just some fighters that aren't as marketable. Like some fighters don't have the companies knocking down their door to give them endorsement deals. So that's not every fighter's story. So yeah, a fighter, if he can at all, he has to like. I believe a fighter has to pay his team. Like if you have people in your career that have helped you get to a certain level, so whether it be your trainer, your manager, your camp manager, your liaison, your whatever the case may be, your photographers, anybody that's part of your team that's helped you elevate in any way, shape, or form. I feel like a fighter has to invest in his team because a fighter is only as good as his team. So if he's not doing what he's got to do to keep the team intact, then it's gonna come back and cost that fighter in other ways down the road. So I get all that, but it's just tough. It's tough. It's tough, man, because 16% is a lot. 16% is a lot, and then taxes, and then so the fighter's got to work all that out. But yeah, I wish it was like that. I wish every fighter who was undisputed got a bunch of endorsement deals, but not every fighter who's undisputed has a bunch of endorsement deals. Riddle me this: Terrence Crawford, great fighter. Does he have? He's been undisputed a couple of times. Does he have a bunch of endorsement deals? I mean, I don't. I know he's got a couple, but like, does Jordan Brand or Nike Gate have Terrence Crawford as a big endorsement deal? No. So that's not every fighter's story. And there's fighters that are even less known than Crawford that have been undisputed champions that don't have endorsement deals. So anyway, let me see. Can Ken Sherrill fight for the IBF belt at super flyweight against Wabaldo Garcia? Yeah, he could. He could. He needs to make sure he get. I'll tell you guys right now, man. Yo, Ken Sherrill needs to get through this next fight against Ricardo Sandoval. Ricardo Sandoval, I think he's like a 6-1 underdog. I'm telling y'all right now, bro. Ricardo Sandoval versus Ken Sherrill is gonna be a straight fire. Ricardo Sandoval is a beast. That dude. Some of those same skills that Bam Rodriguez has, where he gets in the pocket and he pivots around opponents and then throws these murderous body shots. Ricardo Sandoval has some of those same skills too, and he's a very well-schooled boxer. Has a nice, solid straight right hand. Educated, feints really well. He just doesn't have the push. Like Golden Boy don't really give a fuck about him. Let's be real. They don't care about him. He's normally buried deep on the Golden Boy undercard. So people don't really know who he is. He's not much of a talker. He's not like a self-promoter. He doesn't really promote himself like that on Instagram. So, unless you're really up in your boxing, you won't know. But I'm telling you, we can't even think about what Ken Sherrill's doing next because he might fuck around and lose this fight because he's coming off of the War of the Ages with Sego Uriakui where he had to empty the tank to win. So, yeah, I don't know, man. It's a tough fight. I ain't seen this dude here in forever. I feel like I'm back in 2019. Shout out to Nathan Carey, Main Event Boxing. From the Black Country, from the Midlands, from the UK. He says it's funny. Nathan always calls me the troll, but then he says the most troll shit in my comments. He says True School Sports is on the Puerto Rican WBO payroll. Why do you say that, champ? Why am I? Shit, listen. I wish I was. I'm not on nobody's payroll but my own. The WBC ain't paying me. The WBA ain't paying me. The WBO ain't paying me. True School Sports is self-funded. How am I? I'm good, man. I'm exceptional. How about you? Do I think Masanori Rikishi can win a world title against the right guy? He needs the right guy in front of him. But he's a good fighter. I thought he had a good game plan against Sugar Nunez. He just didn't. He just couldn't land the shots he was trying to land because Nunez had a good defense. Will Jin come to train in America to work more on his defense and technique? Listen, I gave Hachiochi Nakaya Boxing Gym and Issa Nakaya a suggestion. I don't think they're gonna take my suggestion. So listen, it's not my. I offered a helping hand. I think they have their own plans. Hopefully, in the future, they take my suggestion because I think it would really help Jin Sasaki. But yeah, he'll be here in America. Let me see. What was the last thing I got? Oh, okay, guys. So my last talking point because I forgot to get to this. Yo, I don't know if y'all saw that little sparring event they had on Friday. So the day before Berlanga fought Sheeraz, they had this whole this sparring event, and it was in New York City. And at this sparring event, all these fighters and it was some notable fighters that were sparring. Like you had Pistol Pete Dobson, friend of the channel, he was sparring there. You had Kurt Scobie sparring. You had Jamal Harvey. Who else sparred? It was it was weird because they had all these different professional fighters sparring each other, right? But there was no referee in the ring. There was no referee in the ring. And the most notable event that happened during these sparring sessions was Marquise Taylor. Marquise Taylor, the 154 pounder. He sparred some guy and knocked him the fuck out, like knocked him out bad. And the dude got knocked out face first. And mind you, these guys aren't getting paid for this. There's no referees. But Turkey's sitting there on a plush chair, like just watching the sparring. Like it felt like I was watching Django Unchained or some shit like that. Like you trying to just fight for the amusement of the king, you know, type shit. Like so. I didn't like it. I didn't like it. And to my friend Sean Tatel's point, shout out to Sean Tatel. Make sure you guys go subscribe to him on YouTube and follow him on Twitter. Here's what he tweeted the day after all that happened. Right? Hold on. So here's what Sean tweeted. He said, and I quote, "I'm sorry I got to mention it again, but those same fighters that always beat us about how sparring needs to stay in the gym, fighters shouldn't post that stuff on social media. Media shouldn't blow it up. Again, where are they now?" Because Sean had tweeted back in June that he said right here, he said, and I quote, "For years, I've heard so many fighters stick their fingers in fans and media's faces about not understanding the sweet science and treating fighters as a piece of entertainment." You know, so, you know, Sean, he's telling the truth here. I've been covering boxing for like what almost 10 years now. It'll be 10 years on September 5th. And I've gotten yelled at by coaches, by fighters, I've had all kinds of incidents with people in boxing telling me about not recording sparring, not saying anything about sparring, just all things regarding sparring. And then here we have all these fighters fighting for free, sparring for free, trying to kill each other for Turkey's amusement to get on the undercard, which, you know, I get it. I guess it's an opportunity, but I don't know. I didn't like it. I didn't like it. Something about it it didn't sit well with me. Like I feel like, you know, a lot of those guys that were sparring, like Kurt Scobie and Pete Dobson and Marquise Taylor, these guys got fights on YouTube. Like you don't need to have them doing all that. They're known. Like if you watch boxing, you will know who some of those guys are, and you will have seen some of their fights. You don't need to be killing each other just to amuse Turkey. And I don't know. I mean, I feel like maybe the intention behind the idea was good, but you know the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Turkey Al Sheikh, you know, I don't know. I just didn't like it. I feel like what's been told to me for years as a member of the media is that sparring should stay in the gym. And, you know, I'm going to wag my finger at all these fighters, like I've heard over the years, like guys like Andre Ward and, you know, guys in the boxing media who always talk about how, you know, you got to keep it in the gym. Well, if dudes are sparring and you're live streaming it, and there's no referee in the ring to police the sparring, and dudes are getting knocked the fuck out with no promise for either. Like the guy who gets the knockout is not even promised a spot on undercard. Like, you know, it's just not good. It's not good. For those guys that were sparring, those guys are known. They have fights on YouTube. If Turkey wants to know how good they are, he needs to go watch their fights or have someone in this matchmaking team go watch their fights. I think like that's part of that didn't sit well with me. What did you guys think? If you had a chance to go ahead and watch the sparring event that happened, what did you guys think about it? All right, David Esther. By the way, guys, I've gone through all my talking points for like an hour and a half, so you know I'll just freestyle it. We'll try to go for like at least half an hour. We'll make it an even 2 hours. But listen, thank you guys for tuning in. It's your boy BT, Brandon Taylor, the Untouchable, True School Sports Empire. Make sure you guys smash the like button, subscribe, super chat. Give me your questions, man. Anything goes now. Anything box related, non-box related. Go ahead and let me have it. Now he said, "What are you gonna say if Pacheco goes the distance with this guy?" I'm expecting him to go the distance with McCumbee. McCumbee can punch. I think McCumbie's punching power will keep Pacheco honest enough to go the distance. So it wouldn't shock me at all. Shout out to High Road Galvez. He says, "People forget Bam got dropped by old Guile." Yeah, a lot of people do forget that. Did you get the gift? Did you get to give Jim the gift that you wanted to give him? No, no, I didn't. No, I didn't. So I'll have to keep it until I go back to Japan. You know. I also don't like when Ohashi is posting Inoue sparring on Instagram. Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Like, I kind of like when they do it for Inoue because I like Inoue, so I'm a huge Inoue fan. So I love seeing what Inoue is doing in the gym. But yeah, if we're playing by those old school codes and those old school rules of what happens in the gym stays in the gym, Hideki Ohashi, he should be like not posting no sparring, but it is what it is. Sparring is fighting. Your brain is still getting rattled. Exactly, and those were fights. Like them dudes, like there's between hard sparring, which is basically hard sparring is like a fight, and like technical sparring where you go work with somebody. Like sometimes you may get a guy who is at a higher level than another guy, but so the higher level guy will normally just work on his defense, not load up on his punches too much. Work with them. There wasn't guys working in there with each other. There was dudes trying to knock each other the fuck out for spots on a Turkey undercard for free with no referee in the ring. Remember when Spatafora gave Mayweather that work in sparring in '99? Yeah, I mean that was like the origins of. I feel like that. I don't know. I could be wrong. I know there's like older sparring sessions online, but I feel like that's one of the first sparring sessions that really popularized sparring being recorded in the gym. What do you guys think? It was weird that they were going all out in sparring when some were fighting people twice their size. That's what I'm saying. Like it was just, for lack of a better term, it was real ghetto. It was terrible. It's classless. I didn't like it. Inoue versus Rafael Espinoza. Do you think the monster can win the WBO? He can. He could beat Espinoza. That's actually like one of the three fights I want to see for Inoue. All the all the all the fights that like the three fights that I want to see Inoue in, right? And I really don't even want to start talking about this because I feel like if I start talking about this, it may go somewhere else. But like, I want to see Inoue fight Espinoza. I want to see Inoue fight Junta Nakatani, of course, and of course, above all, I want to see Inoue fight Angelo Leo. Right? Those are my three fights. Every fight that is not one of those three fights until then, I don't really care too much about. If I'm being 100% like authentic and honest with you guys. I am Black Kid says, you got a new subscriber in me. I was on Blue Blood Sports page and your video said to me, so you're doing your thing, bro. Thank you, man. I've been doing my thing for a while, man. Been at it 9 years now. It'll be 10 next month, or not next 10 in September. But I feel like I could get a lot better at going live more often. That's been the one thing I've always been kind of very inconsistent at. So I'm trying to get some rhythm there. So thank you. Welcome, man. And feel free to explore the, what is it, like 10,000 plus videos on the channel. A lot of great interviews and content over the years. So yeah, welcome. Julius Armstrong said, by the way, shout out to Julius Armstrong with the super chat. He says, Kafu beating Tanaka. Is Kafu beating Tanaka better than Bam beating Quadras? It's a good question. I would say yes. Quadras in his day was a very good fighter, and I think what makes the Quadras win a quality win for Bam Rodriguez is because of the fact that he did it on short notice, right? He didn't have ample amount of time to prepare for that fight, but he did, and he looked great. He looked great in that fight, so that's why he got credit for the win. Quadras himself was, he's seen better days. If you follow that fight, he just recovered. He had just recovered from like rehab. He was an alcoholic. Like, he was documented going into the fight. So yeah, I think Tanaka was a better win. Tanaka was a 4 division champion. Tanaka had plans to be in. Tanaka was supposed to be a Bam opponent, and Kafu came and stole that. Tanaka is probably one of the best fighters from Japan of the last 10 years, and one of the better fighters around below 122 over the last 10 years. So yeah, it's a great win. Kafu was a 6-1 underdog. Are there any boxers I dislike? Yeah, there's plenty of boxers I dislike. I mean, like, let me see. Who do I really dislike right now? Let me see. Who do I dislike right now? Hmm. I don't know. Like, I would say right now, the fighter I dislike the most. Hmm. I don't know. They're all good. I'm trying to think. Who do I dislike? I don't know. I don't have any hatred in my heart these days. Who do I dislike in boxing? A lot of people will joke with you and they'll say that, oh, I hate Naoya Inoue because I don't always make favorable comments about him, but no, Inoue is actually one of my favorite fighters. Right now, I'll probably say in boxing, my least favorite fighter would probably be. What do you guys think? Name some names and I'll tell you. I'll tell you. I think Bud should be fighting Boots and Canelo should be fighting Benavidez. I believe both fights will be better than the fight they're about to have with each other. Do you agree? Yes. Oh my God. You're like right now. I am black. I am Black Mo. You are preaching one of the gospel truths that I preach on this channel all the time, which is that fact that number one, what you just said is why I don't really care about Crawford versus Canelo. Now, am I going to cover it? Yes. Am I going to make my videos? Yes. Am I going to capitalize and make money and get views and build my channel off of it? 1,000%. But really, I don't care about the fight. I think it's a cash grab. I think, as you eloquently stated, Benavidez versus Canelo is a fight that needs to happen. Canelo has been avoiding that fight and became a refugee, went to a whole other continent, went to a whole other part of the world to not fight Benavidez and go to Saudi. And with Terrence Crawford, I would have loved to see him fight Boots. And truth be told, I mean, I know it wasn't a fight that was talked about, but like, it would have been cool to see like Bud stick around 147, or if not 147. I think maybe Boots versus Brian Norman would have been a cool fight because I know they sparred each other, and I've heard things about their sparring session. So that would have been a cool fight. Bud versus Boots, Bud versus Norman, and of course at 154, you have Bud versus Virgil, Bud versus Bakram. Bud versus Bakram is really the fight I wanted to see, but obviously Bakram is not going to make him the kind of money that Canelo would make. So I understand the business side of it, but yes, to answer your question, there's not many things in this world I can agree with more than that. So yes, sir. BT, what's good? Hope life's been treating you well, my dude. Life's better now. It's weird because I feel like, honestly, I've been to Japan 3 times, right? So each trip was different. The first 2 times I returned to America from Japan, and they say this happens when you travel to other countries and you really enjoy your time. The first 2 times I came back to America from Japan, I was immediately just depressed and sad and wanted to go back to Japan. And the feelings lasted 2 to 4 months. The first and second time. Now this third trip, I didn't feel that way immediately when I came back. I was happy to be home. I enjoyed being home. It was good to be back in America. And then somewhere around like day 10 or day 11 of being back in the States, it all just hit me like a bag of like a truck, and boom, all those feelings of wanting to go back to Japan came up. So highs and lows, it's life. But other than that, everything's good. I'm healthy. Pops is healthy. And I can't complain. I got some things happening this week in my life that I'm very excited about, so I can't complain. Hope all is well with you in Australia. David Escher says, Jaime Munguia. Oh my God, yes. I cannot stand Jaime. See, the good thing is you guys know who these fighters are, so I can't trick you guys. But I can't stand Jaime Munguia. He is one of the most overrated fighters in boxing over the last 20 years. Eric Salubin. I don't really care a whole lot about Eric Salubin. And the funny thing is, like, Hiro knew to say his name because he knows me. But now Eric Salubin, good fighter, but the other day I went to go retweet something that he tweeted because I agreed with him. He was tweeting Bakram about how he was the mandatory challenger and how Bakram is calling out everybody but his mandatory, which I agree. And I think Bakram and Lubin should happen next. So I went to go retweet it on Twitter, and I found out that Eric Lubin blocked me. Now, it wasn't that shocking because Eric Lubin and I had a run-in a couple years ago. I mean, not a couple, many years ago. Like, I'm talking like maybe like 7 years ago. So I guess he still feels the type of way and he blocked me. Or maybe I tweeted something that annoyed him. I don't know. But either way, he blocked me on Twitter. So yeah, I don't really care too much for Eric Lubin. Mirza Ahmadaliev. Don't really care much for him. He's done the bare minimum most of his career. And the only reason he's getting this fight is because Inoue don't want to go to featherweight right now, and he's going to build himself up towards the Junta Nakatani fight. Edgar Alas says Berlanga. No, I'm actually still a big fan of Edgar Berlanga. I like Edgar Berlanga a lot. Do I think Reito Tsutsumi will be champion one day? He should be. He's got enough talent. I think he's got to continue to adjust to the professional game because you got to understand Reito was a highly decorated amateur fighter. So the most important learning curve for a fighter like Reito is generally, it's generally like turning your punches over and you're not because in the amateurs it's hit and not get hit. In the pros it's hurt and not get hurt. That's my opinion about boxing in the professional level. But let me see what class is he? Right now he's campaigning between lightweight and featherweight. So we'll see where he settles in at. But I think he'll be just fine. How do you feel about Okoli versus Kevin Lorena? I had no idea that Lawrence Okoli and Kevin Lorena are even fighting, but that's a good fight. Kevin Lorena is a pretty good southpaw. I remember he gave Dubois hell a couple years ago. And Lawrence Okoli, he's big. He's been wanting to chase some glory at heavyweight for some years now. So I think if you're Lawrence Okoli, you're trying to dip your toe in the water and see how far you can go in the heavyweight division. It's a good fight to build you up. I ain't mad at it. It's a good fight. It's a fight you could lose. Harold says, I'm starting to get annoyed of Johnny Beck on Twitter. Me too. I'm tired of Johnny Beck. And Johnny Beck's always on Twitter, flapping his gums, talking about how he's the most avoided fighter. And it's not even Johnny Beck. It's probably Egis Klimas running his mouth, running his account. But listen, I know fighters that will fight Johnny Beck in the 160 division. Not everybody's scared of him. Denzel Bentley will fight him again and give him a good fight. I know for a fact that if that paperwork ever got passed and he wanted to fight Ian Green would fight him. And I told Johnny Beck today on Twitter, or Egis Klimas, whoever's running his account. I told him, I said, Ian Green would smack you guys silly. I know that for a fact too. How do I feel about Raymond Ford versus Abraham Nova? I haven't had a chance to think about it too much because I saw it just got announced like within the last couple of hours. So I haven't had a chance to really process it. For a short notice, I mean, I guess would it be considered short notice? Let me see. Yeah, they're fighting next month, August 16th. So yeah, it's a bit short notice. I like the fight. Abraham Nova has been at a good level. He's never been able to really crack at the top level of boxing. He's all the guys that were at the top of his weight classes. He lost to all of them. He lost to Obasi. He lost to Oshaki. He lost to Cortez. Although I will say, that Foster fight was close. He had a case for that fight, and I really think I thought he beat Andres Cortez. I thought he was unfortunate to not get the decision in the Andres Cortez fight, but that's boxing. Good fight. He can punch a little bit, but the only thing for Nova is that Nova fights at a pace which I think will allow Ford to fight in the pace he wants. And see, with Ford, you can't let Ford fight in the pace he wants to fight at. You gotta impose the fight on him. Let me see. We got Edgar might be like Wilder, BT, with big punches. Once they lose their boogeyman aura, it's usually over, which is why Tank versus Roach is such a big deal. Yeah, Tank. Listen, man, Tank versus Roach. That's the next fight in boxing. I would say. Well, I'm starting to get excited about Bam versus Kofu, but the next fight I'm like overly excited about in boxing. Well, actually, that's not true. So I would say Kofu Bam. I'm starting to get excited about. Kenshiro Taraji versus Ricardo Sandoval, I'm getting really, really excited about because I'm a Kenshiro fanboy and Ricardo Sandoval is a very dangerous fighter. But apart from them fights, Tank versus Roach is probably the put my charger in. Tank versus Roach is definitely one of them fights where I'm really excited because I feel like Roach has got screwed in the first fight. And man, I'll tell you this: I've had a front row seat, not a front row seat, but I've had the honor to cover Lamont Roach up close in person. I was there in 2021 when he beat Rene Alvarado in San Antonio, and like, he wasn't getting a lot of coverage. Golden Boy didn't really have him too high up in the pecking order, so it's been pretty cool to see Lamont Roach go from being a relative unknown to being a world champion to now, like, he's kind of a name. He's kind of become a household name off the back of Gervonta Davis. Getting a gift decision, not a gift decision, but a gift draw, I should say, against him. So yeah, I think you're right though. Like with punchers, they don't know how to evolve. Some of these guys don't know how to evolve, and once they go ahead and they lose, they just don't know how to evolve themselves. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes for young Berlanga. Are you going to the Inoue versus Picasso fight in December? I don't know what I'm doing, man. Honestly, I've done a lot of traveling the last 6 months. I don't want to go nowhere. I want to just kind of just stay in one place for 6 months and just make these videos and enjoy my boxing content. Because part of the reason why I didn't go live at all, even though I got back to the States on June 25th or June 27th. I left June 25th from Japan, but I got back to the States where I live in June 27th. Is because I was that burnt out. Like that last Japan trip did an absolute number on my body. Like I've never felt that way before in my life. Why aren't you pushing for Jose Luis Sanchez versus Eric Tuta at 147? He's fighting against Abel Ramos. Because I know it's not going to happen. That's why. I'm from DC, bro. Lamont Roach and the Russell family are our pride and joy as far as boxing goes. Lamont been whooping Tanks since they were kids. That's facts. You know what's crazy? So I'm gonna tell you a story, right? So I didn't go, like, I didn't cover the fight. I didn't go into the arena, but I was in New York City when Tank fought Roach, and I did cover the fight week stuff. But they didn't give me a press pass because I applied too late. So I just chilled at this hotel I was staying in, and I got some content that week. I talked to Roach at Gleason's. It was cool, but there was a dude, I'll never forget this. There was a dude that me and my friend Sean Zattel, who also has a channel, shout out to Sean, we met him, and he was trying to tell us, like, yo, he was so serious. He was like, look, Tank can't beat Roach. Look at his eyes. He can't beat him. And me and Sean were like, this dude sound crazy. He must be like Lamont Roach, because he was the guy that told us this. He was like a Lamont Roach sponsor, so he seemed kind of biased, but shit, he was right. Lamont Roach might be one of them things where he has Tank's number from being kids. That familiarity is helping him a lot. And now you're saying that Lamont's been whooping Tank's ass since they were kids. So shit, we'll see what happens in August. I'm really excited. I've grown into becoming a big Tank fan over the years. I wasn't always a big Tank fan, but covering him like up close, sometimes these fighters that you don't like, and when you watch them on TV, sometimes you get a feel for how they are in person, and you grow to like them. And that's happened with Tank. Like, I've covered, I think I've been to like 4 or 5 of his media workouts, and I've covered, let me see, I got Garcia and then Martin. So yeah, 2 of his fights and 5 of his media workouts. So I like Tank, and I want to see him do well, but I don't know, man. Lamont Roach just might have his number. I saw a fighter who, like, it felt like Lamont Roach had to answer for everything when he fought Tank. What are my thoughts on Rato's last fight? I mean, the guy he fought clearly wasn't in shape to fight, so it was good to see Rato get a stoppage. But I mean, there's not much to take from it. Rato has he's got to fight some better opposition, but it's the kind of fight that you would expect for a guy who's 2-0. Murtazaliev took Tim Tsz's soul. We'll find out on Saturday. We're going to find out when he fights Fundora on Saturday, but it's very possible that that's the case. LOL, I need to root for Inoue to lose. He's getting that multi-fight treatment like Bam. Yeah, I don't like when fighters start doing that shit. I don't know why. I don't like it. I feel like a fighter should just take the fight in front of him and then go to the next fight. I don't like when fighters say, like, especially like the way Inoue is doing it. Like, they're like, yeah, we're gonna fight Yi Jun Kim, and then we're gonna fight Cardenas, and then we're gonna fight Merjan, and then we're gonna fight Picasso, and then we're gonna fight Junto. Like everything's just a foregone conclusion. Like, but I guess they believe in their fighter. But whenever I hear that there's fights already in place, it makes me want like the plans to get blown up. I love the stat card, but it's reasonable to believe that the Bam Puma fight will be overlooked by the casual since it's not the main or co-main event. Listen, man, we can't even talk about Bam versus Puma. We cannot talk about Bam versus Puma because Bam might get knocked out by Kofu this weekend. Listen, I'm not even talking about Bam versus Puma until Bam beat Kofu. He got to go ahead and show me that he could beat Kofu. What are your thoughts on Aoi Yokoyama's next opponent? He seems like a solid touch for him to get a knockout. Let me see. I feel like I looked this up because I remember somebody sent me might have been you actually on Twitter, reverse, or on Instagram. Let me see his next opponent, Aoi Yokoyama. He is fighting. Oh yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, he's fighting a dude, Ryusi Baba, 4-2-1. Yeah, like that's an opponent that you bring in for your young fighter to get a knockout. So I agree with you. Yeah, on paper that's what it looks like. They don't want to fight Albert Bell. He's at 135 now. You know what, Hyro? They don't want to fight Albert Bell. And you know what? I've never made an Albert Bell video, but I think it's time, Hyro. I think we might have to go make an Albert Bell video soon. Are you more high on Yuta Sakai or Reito Tsutsumi? I like Yuta a lot. I'm higher on Yuta Sakai. I think they're both similar, but I think Yuta Sakai has a higher ceiling for sure. Reito, I think what you're seeing now is kind of going to be what he is. Like, he's a very technically very well polished fighter. He counters very well, but Reito Tsutsumi, I think Yuta Sakai can actually be more of a boxer puncher than Reito can. Kofu is being disrespected because he's from Africa. People forget boxing is a world sport. Well, that goes to my point. And I don't know if you guys have ever heard me say this, but I've said this many times, and I'll say it again for the people who haven't heard me say this. Here on YouTube, I always hear complaints from boxing fans of different ethnic groups. I hear people say like, "Oh, Mexican fighters have it so hard, and this Mexican fighter is not progressing because he's Mexican." I hear the black fans say that the Black American fighters have it so hard because, everything's against them, right? I hear British fans even complain sometimes, and none of that is true, because the place in the world where the fighters have the most obstacles to overcome are the African fighters. 1,000%, not even close, because almost like none of these African fighters have a ton of money behind them at all. That's number one. So if you don't have a lot of money behind you, you have to play the game of actually winning a bunch of fights to become the mandatory challenger. Then when they become a mandatory challenger, they're never a priority to get the world title shot because they're not big names. They haven't boxed on American or British television or Japanese television. So they're not really going to go ahead and get the luck of the draw as far as getting their mandatory honor as soon as possible. So they got to play the waiting game, maybe take some step aside money, and they get kind of screwed because of that. But it's messed up because it's crazy because as much obstacles they have to overcome, when an African fighter breaks through and becomes champion and gets on that world level, it's real because of what they had to overcome to get there. So I say that to say that it's no different in this fight. Kofu, in my opinion, Kofu is already down 8-0 on the cards to Bam, and I'm gonna tell you guys why. And some of these things I'm saying, I also said in my video about this that's dropping tomorrow. So stay tuned for that when it does drop. But literally, so if you look at the history of boxing, Pernell Whitaker against Chavez, Pernell Whitaker against De La Hoya, Paulie Malignaggi versus Juan Diaz, and there's many cases of fighters fighting a Mexican and or Mexican American fighter in Texas and getting completely shafted on the cards. It is a tale as old as time. So that already is an obstacle that Kofu has to overcome. Then you're fighting Bam Rodriguez, one of the best fighters in the world today, which by itself is a very, very hard thing to overcome. And then to top it all off, now Turki Al-Sheikh makes this Puma Martinez fight for after the Kafu fight. And you guys know when these deals are in place, they're not trying to have their plans messed up. You know, they already went ahead and started promoting Bam versus Puma on the card. So if this fight is close, if Kafu replicates the Tanaka fight in this matchup, he is not getting a decision. I'm telling you that right now. So in my mind, Kafu is already down 8-0 against Bam. He needs a knockout. That's where we're at. You know? Kafu beating Bam is bigger than Corey Sanders over Vladimir. Oh my God, that's a big statement. That was a pretty big upset back in the day. Yeah, I don't know, but I think you might be right. Actually, you might be right because there was never this many things at play, and you guys gotta remember because think about it, Kafu for a lot of people in America, in North America, this will be their first time ever hearing about Kafu because unless you're like me, who likes getting up for these 3 a.m. Japanese cards and watching these Japanese dudes scrap on ESPN, unless you stayed up to watch him fight Kosai Tanaka, you're not going to really know anything about Kafu. And the thing is, he doesn't really have a resume to speak of outside of the Tanaka fight. Because I went back and I watched some of his fights that he had before the Tanaka fight, and they're not big fights, they're not in big venues, you know. So, this is going to be the first time people hear about Kafu this week for the majority of boxing fans. And so there's no business incentive for the boxing industry to give Kafu the decision. And there's every business incentive in the world for them to give it to Bam. So that's what I'm saying. If Kafu go in here and he beats the brakes off Bam and stop him or beat him in any way, shape, or form, you cannot at all discredit Kafu. It's already amazing what he's done. He went to Japan. He beat Tanaka in Japan. That's impressive. Japan's a very hard place to win. You know, I've seen it watching it, and I've seen it being in the dressing room with Angelo Leo for the Kameda fight. It is not an easy place to win. That being said, he's already like overachieved. But if he go in here, he beats Bam. All of a sudden, you're talking about Africa having a star now. He goes from being a legitimate champion to a star. So it's big time stuff. I think this is definitely the best opponent Bam has fought in a while, honestly. Because Guile to me was shot to pieces. That wasn't Guile. You know, Sonny Edwards was at the time the best guy in the division, so I can't discredit Sonny Edwards. But you know what's crazy? A lot of people would discredit Sonny Edwards because a lot of people I remember were saying that Sonny Edwards is trash because his knockout ratio is so low. So yeah, I think if you compare Kafu to Bam's last 5 fights, he's the best fighter that Bam has fought in his last 5 fights, straight up. And shout out to my main man Koi from Yokohama. Hey, listen, shout out to Yokohama, Kanagawa, Japan. My home away from home. One of my homes away from home in Japan. You know, I kind of miss my luxury True School Sports penthouse estate. You know, I miss it. And I'll maybe like I'm thinking the next Japan trip. Maybe I'll go there for my birthday. So maybe like next February. I'll be in Japan, so because I'm trying to stay in America for a little bit and stay where I live at for like at least 6 months. Tired of traveling, but yeah, shout out to you in Yokohama. South Africa got 2 dogs this week with Kevin Lorena and Kafu. Yeah, they do. South Africa quiet as kept has some warriors over the years. Heki Butler, Sivanathan Ochinga, Kevin Lorena, Fumulele Kafu, and the list goes on and on and on. Corey Sanders, I believe, was South African. So. Shout out to South Africa quietly. Very strong boxing nation. BT, do you think a 17-year-old person should try boxing maybe in the Army? Do you think the Army? Do you think Army boxing is safe? Is the age too late for competition? It's never too late. It's all about your mindset. The most important thing about boxing is your mindset. How strong are you? How hard will you train? How you know, just how much of yourself are you willing to give to the sport? Because this sport requires everything. Boxing is like a jealous woman. And if you are not all the way invested, it will show itself in that ring. So the first and most important thing is your mindset and your work ethic. And then through those things, you can develop your talent. And, you know, I don't think the age matters, to be honest with you. It matters. I think the earlier you start, the better. But I think if you're serious about the sport will be serious about you. And I'll just leave it at that. TSM says you miss the udon noodles. Yes, I do. Every single day I miss udon noodles. Udon noodles are the best food in the world, and I feel bad for anybody in this world who hasn't gone to Japan and had udon noodles. Honestly, it's the simplest thing in the world, but it's so good. All right, we've reached the 2 hour mark. So guys, I'm gonna maybe go like 5 more minutes, maybe 10 more minutes, and then I'll wrap it up. But it's been a great live so far. So keep the questions coming. Boxing, non-boxing, let them fly, man. Let them fly. Super chat, we here. You know, by the way, we're closing in on 88,000 subscribers, so I'm pretty hyped about that. Yeah, right now we're like 52 subscribers away from 88,000. So I'm getting really excited about that because I'm trying to hit like the next big milestone is 90. And then once I hit 90,000 subscribers, I can finally start to think about this number that I've had in my head for so many years. 100,000 subscribers, the road to the plaque. And then when I hit 100,000 subscribers, when we get the plaque, I'm going to have me a party in Vegas at Circa. Yes, sir. What are some tips you'd give to someone going to Japan? There's so many. It depends on what. Like, practical tips about Japan. The first thing you should do is download the Suica card app to your if you have an iPhone. Download the Suica card to your Apple Wallet so that when you go to Japan, you can go to the convenience store and the train without having to pull out a bunch of money. It helps a lot. I would definitely say, definitely don't talk on the train. try to be respectful to their culture. Don't be loud on the train. And I would definitely say have as much udon noodles as possible. I've always liked anyway, but recently I became a fan of Terrence Crawford too. He's just too cute. It's the first time I felt this kind of attraction to a black man. All right, no comment from me. I don't comment on the looks of men, but if that's how you feel, that's how you feel, champ. I like women. I'm asking for someone else, but let's say they know nothing about boxing. Which card would you recommend this week? That's a good question. Well, I'll tell you which card you shouldn't watch. Don't watch the Usyk Dubois card because the undercard is trash. Don't watch that card. Now look, I'm a boxing purist. I like the Kafu card. I like the Bam versus Kafu fight a lot. I like the Pacheco versus Macumbi fight. But I think you could definitely make the argument that the PBC card is the deeper card. So I would actually say probably the PBC card. I'll go with the PBC card. I fight the PBC card is going to have more all action fights as to where the Matchroom card has some really good fights towards the end of the card, but there's more showcases. So yeah. Other than udon noodles, what should we eat? All kinds of things to eat. Depends. I like the freshwater eel, takoyaki. Start there. Takoyaki and freshwater eel. And then if you go to they have these restaurants called Sukiya. Sukiya is like a restaurant, and they have like all kinds of Japanese dishes there for pretty cheap. Like you can get like Japanese dishes there for like 1,200 yen, which is like $7 or $8, like $7 to $10. And it's a good food. So, yeah. I like burgers too. So like Moe's Burger, I like Moe's Burger. Shogun Burger, Ikebukuro number 18 is another good spot. What's the other one? Lucci Burger. I mean, there's all people wouldn't believe it, but Japan actually has a lot of good burger spots. So, yeah. Yeah, I thought the PBC card is pretty casual friendly. Like Pitbull should be fun for a casual. Yeah, the PBC card top to bottom is more. It's a more casual friendly card. So if you're trying to suggest Sukiya, LOL. It is the lowest end food, maybe for Japanese standards, but you know, American standards, it's pretty good. You know, I like it. I think I thought Sukiya was pretty good. It's basic. It's basic ass food, but I liked it. It was filling. It was cheap. You know, because PBC is mainstream. They don't cater to boxing those. Tell them, Hyro. Tell them again. Tell them again. How did I like Yokohama and the people? I loved Yokohama. Yokohama people were very kind to me. I got a lot of friends in Yokohama now. And when I go to Japan again, that's probably where I'm going to be staying again. So, yeah, no, Yokohama was great. And I can't wait to go back. Well, no, I don't want to say I can't wait. I can wait. I don't really want to do no traveling. I'm good on traveling. I'm burnt out from traveling. I wanted to stay not just in America, but where I'm at for like the next 7 months, you know, if I can. Are you going live for the Taraji fight? I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing yet. I'm taking it one day at a time, champ. I'm not thinking about what's gonna happen 2 weeks from now, because today has enough troubles of its own. So we have business to tend to this week, outside of boxing. So I can't think about what happens in 15 days, but we'll see. Did you get to see Mina Tomiyari? I think so. I'm not sure. Did you like Hachiochi? How did you like Hachiochi? I like Hachiochi. Now, Corey says there's nothing in Hachiochi. Hachiochi has some good food spots. Me, Angelo Leo, and the whole team ate at some nice, you know, Wagyu beef. But you know, they have a million Wagyu beef spots in Japan. But they had I like Hachiochi. I had good memories of Hachiochi. I have friends at Hachiochi. But yeah, there's not a ton going on at Hachiochi. But it's a great place. It's a calm Japanese suburb. You know. Did I go to the Hajime no Ippo gym? Yes, I went there. Not the last Japan trip, but my Japan trip towards the end of 2024. Sendo versus Ricardo. Who you got, BT? I'm going Ricardo Martinez, man. Ricardo Martinez about to put the beats on everyone. That's one of my favorite characters from Hajime no Ippo. Ricardo Martinez. He says, I went to Hachiochi and I went to the outlet. You talking about the outlet right there by the station? Because I know when you get out the station, not too far from it, there's an outlet. I've been to a couple outlets in Hachiochi. Yeah, no, it's if you're just there for the purpose of training, it's great for the purpose of training. You know, I've got multiple friends in Hachiochi, so yeah, it'll always be a place that's fun to me. Philippians 4:13, what's good, champ? Hope you're well. Good to see you, champ. We're heading towards the end of the live, but what's good, man? I'll stay on a little bit to talk to you. What's good? I think Crawford and Canelo is going to end with Terence Crawford with Canelo Alvarez winning by decision, because Turki Al-Sheikh wants to make this fight with Crawford and Hamzah Sheeraz. That's the fight that he wants to make. By the way, since we're talking about Japan, I don't know if you guys noticed, but like, you guys noticed the convenience store signs. You got Family Mart here, you got 7-Eleven, and then you got my personal favorite. You got Lawson right here. Look, and they all light up. Look. They all light up. See that? It's magic. Beautiful stuff here on the high tech True School Sports Studio. I just bought all these recently. These are the coolest things I bought in a long time. So yes, it's my little homage to Japan. Do you think the development of boxing in China is disappointing since they have a huge population? Yes, it is. It's very disappointing. They don't really invest much in boxing in China. From what I had a conversation with Zhu Kan a couple years ago about this, and he explained it to me very well. They just don't invest into the boxing over there, so that's why it's like that. Yeah, Canelo Alvarez is going to win the decision over Terrence Crawford. Yes, that's what I'm saying. Yes, Lawson Station's the goal. They got those little chicken bites in the hot case, the little cheesy chicken bites in the hot case. They got the hot yuzu lemonade. That's the spot right there, Lawson Station. Oh, and you can't see it. Look. You know what? Since we're talking about signs, look, I don't know if y'all can see this. Look, I got the JR. I got the J. Hold on. The JR train station sign. See that? So, you know, there's always a little piece of Japan in the Rumor True School. You know, shout out to all the fine folks in Japan. Oh shit! Hold on. And of course, the magnet falls because of super glue. Okay, I'll re-glue that later. They said, "Oh wow, the JR sign. How'd you get it?" I bought it on this website. This website called AliExpress. They sell like that's why I bought these two. BT, can we see all the tickets you have on your wall of the fights, and which one is your favorite one you've been to? Well, these aren't tickets. These are credentials. So I was working these fights. My favorite. The irony is my favorite fight that I've been to, I didn't get a credential for, which is August 10th, 2024, which was Angel Leo versus Fernando Lopez. That's hands down my favorite fight I've ever been to. Magical night. So, but I mean, hold on. I'm not gonna go through all of them, but like right next to me, look. So like right next to me, hold on. We're gonna have to go ahead and wrap it up soon. But look, like right next to me, you got Tank versus Ryan, Berlanga versus Canelo. Right, I was there last year. Shout out to the Florida Panthers, the Stanley Cup champs. You got Panthers. You got Tank versus Martin, Teofimo versus Jermaine Ortiz, Roman Gonzalez versus Cuadras. That was a good one. Inoue Cuadras, or Inoue Cardenas, I should say. Trevor Bryan, Daniel Dubois. That was a fun one. Terrence Crawford, Hank Lundy. So there's a lot of them, but those are a couple. I'm not gonna go through all of them, but those are a couple that I have right next to me. So yeah. Okay. LOL, the train maniac. Yeah, man. I took this JR train and I took the JR train so much I figured, you know what? Why not get the JR train signed? The Chinese Amazon site. Yeah, I guess that's what it is. Yes, the Chinese. How much does that JR sign cost you in yen? It cost me like, let me see. I think it was like maybe like 1,100 yen or 900 yen. It was pretty cheap. Yep. Okay, last question, and I'm gonna get up on out of here. I am Mexico says, I'm interested in going to Nagoya. It's a cool city and more peaceful than Tokyo. I went to Nagoya once. I went to Nagoya in 2023, my first trip to Japan, and I interviewed Kosai Tanaka. I didn't get a chance to really explore it. I just kind of like went to the gym and, you know, I ate at a restaurant and then went to Osaka. But it seemed like a really cool city, and I would like to go back at some point and go explore it a lot more. But I met quite a few people from Nagoya, and they're all pretty cool. So, listen, guys, on that note, I'm gonna wrap it up because it's 12:30 at night, or 12:30 a.m. here on the East Coast, and I've had a very long day making content, and you know, it's a blessing that I was even able to go 2 hours today. So, listen, it was good to be here. You guys take care. I'm not sure when the next live will be. I'll try to make it tomorrow. If not, then there'll at least be one more live before the Bam Rodriguez fight on Saturday and the Manny Pacquiao fight on Saturday. But look, you guys take care. Keep supporting the channel. We're getting closer to that 100,000 subscriber mark, and we're gonna get there brick by brick. So thank you guys. Take care. And like I say in every single one of these videos, you could love me or you can hate me, but I'm just a kid from Daniel. So until next time, take care, guys.